Selena is a success. The greatest actress in Korea today, considered the perfect blend of acting and beauty, winner of countless trophies. The media and the public adore her. Nothing could ruin her success and fame. However, everything changed the day she woke up in a forest in the middle of winter. Selena is lying on the ground while thinking about how her entire body aches and how cold she feels. However, she realizes that she shouldn't be feeling cold. She gets up, looks around, and sees that she is nowhere near where she was just 2 hours ago. Selena was at the top of a mountain on a filming set. Her assistant was asking her to use a stunt double because that place was known for accidents and no person who suffered an accident there was ever found. Selena, however, refuses to use a stunt double and says that she wants to win new awards and that for that she needs to work hard. I have to say something. I really respect actors and actresses who actually perform their own action scenes. There's a certain charm in a film when they do that. Her assistant still insists and says that Selena is not thinking clearly about this. However, before the conversation continues, the director calls her to start filming. Selena says she's coming while thinking that all safety measures have already been taken and that tests with mannequins had been done beforehand. Despite it being frightening to film that way, she thinks everything will go smoothly and hopes that no accident happens. However, the only thing that could go wrong did. The carabiner holding Selena snapped and she fell toward the sea. Selena remembers this while thinking to herself that she recalls falling toward the sea and does not understand why she is in a forest. Moreover, it was summer, so why was the forest so cold? And what exactly was the film production thinking by filming in a place like that? However, Selena finally seems to be coming to terms with reality and thinks that there was no way filming could exist in such a dangerous situation like this. My dear, you're in the middle of a forest in winter. Shouldn't you be running for help right now? Shivering with cold, she comes to the conclusion that maybe she is still dreaming after the shock she felt from falling off the cliff. However, a noise pulls her from her thoughts as something very heavy approaches her. Selena turns toward where the noise is coming from and a dragon is approaching her and does not seem to intend to stop. Selena falls to the ground when the dragon jumps over her and its tail passes very close to her body. Frightened, she looks up trying to understand everything that is happening at that moment. In the air, the dragon turns its attention back to Selena and advances toward her. With nothing she can do, Selena raises her arm, expecting the worst. However, an arc of energy cuts through the air as Selena watches the scene in astonishment. The dragon's head is completely severed from its neck as it lets out its final cry of pain. Without reacting to this bloody scene, Selena stares at the figure holding a bloodied sword who has just saved her. A man with white hair, dressed in clothes that look like those of a medieval noble, is staring at Selena. Without saying anything, he plunges the sword into the dragon's body while Selena watches him and wonders if he is truly a human being. The man begins to approach her. Still frozen, Selena is so frightened that she cannot even move. He gets closer and starts speaking in a language she does not understand. Becoming even more confused, Selena tries to understand all of it. Watching him speak a bit more, she comes to the conclusion that it's not that she doesn't understand the language, but rather that it's the first time she has ever heard it. Oh my dear, things are not easy, are they? Just one surprise after another. Selena then starts connecting the dots. A strange language, a climate and a place completely different from where she was before, and to top it all off, a giant monster attacking her. All of this leads her to the conclusion that she is in another world or dimension. However, this still leaves her in doubt. This shouldn't be possible in the real world. And this kind of thing only happens in novels and manhwas. While she thinks about how unlucky she is to come to a world like one from a novel and not be able to automatically understand the language of the place, the man is searching for something without saying anything else. He then extends his left hand to her and waits for her to extend hers. Selena steps back while trying to understand why he is asking for her hand. She thinks for a moment and decides it is better to cooperate with him, considering the situation she is in. With some hesitation, she extends her hand and touches his. He then places a golden bracelet on Selena, who wonders what exactly that was. And finally, she is able to ask him something, and the man is able to respond in a way she understands. He says that it worked very well and explains that the bracelet was made to translate any language for whoever is wearing it, both when the person speaks and when they hear someone else. Wow, how I wish I had a bracelet like that in real life. It would solve so many problems for me. Surprised, Selena doesn't even know what to respond. He then tells her to pull herself together. Selena is offended by what he said and starts arguing with him because of it. Can you believe it? The first time they finally talk and they're already arguing with each other. Ignoring her anger, the man says that now that he has confirmed the bracelet translates what they say, there is no reason for her to keep repeating his words. What an annoyingly smug jerk, for God's sake. Selena finally realizes that she is increasingly living in a novel with this translation device. Beginning to accept the situation, she asks the man what place this is where she woke up a short while ago. The man looks at her without saying anything for a moment. He then asks if he told her what country they are in, she would at least have any idea where that place is. Selena replies that she cannot be certain of anything at that moment. With sarcasm, he says that first she should explain who she is. Unable to contradict him, Selena simply agrees. She says that since she woke up in that place without knowing anything, she can only assume that she was transported to another world. The man simply replies that it seems that is exactly what happened to her. Selena thinks to herself that he does not seem surprised by the fact that she came from another dimension. Looking at the bracelet, she thinks about how he already seemed prepared for this situation and already had a spare bracelet. Selena then asks if many people like her end up in that place. Pulling the sword from the dragon's corpse, he replies that such a possibility exists. He adds that in that place it is common to find several bodies and bones every year, and that she is the first human found alive there. Upon hearing that, Selena feels her legs weaken as she begins to laugh nervously. Completely surprised by what the man said, she can only think about how he can say these things so naturally without even stopping what he was doing. Is what he said true, or is he just joking with her to see how far her nerves can go? She looks ahead and notices that the man simply ignored her and seems more concerned with cleaning his sword than saying anything to her. Selena then decides that she will stay close to him and try to get help until she reaches a safe place. She approaches him and calls his attention. He turns when he sees her. Then, in a more charming and enchanting tone, Selena asks if he happens to be a knight who saves maidens from monsters. Look at that shift in her. She switched to actress mode so quickly that even I was surprised by how this turned out. The man looks at her with a frightening smile and does not respond immediately. Frightened, Selena tries to understand why he is looking at her with such a strange and threatening smile. Remembering the novels she has read, Selena can only think about how this man looks very much like a protagonist character from a story she used to read. That character was called the Cold Duke of the North, and that man perfectly matches that type of character. In a flash of realization, Selena starts to think about how everything fits perfectly. A cold expression that leaves no room for friendship, an appearance that could even freeze whoever looks at him. A warrior with skills capable of defeating any monster in combat. And lastly, an explosive temperament that treats anyone the same way, regardless of gender, age, or race. Selena can only think about how this man has all the stereotypes of a male protagonist from fantasy stories. While she is thinking about all of this, the man finally responds. He introduces himself as Calcion Renbird, leader of the Renbird family and also the Duke of the North of the Kingdom of Arkline. Surprised, she can only think about how he really is the Duke of the North. She then begins to introduce herself. She extends her hand and, when she was about to say that her name is Seo Lin, she changes her mind and introduces herself as Selena. Selena thinks that introducing herself with her Korean name could draw too much attention in that new world, and that her stage name would be more acceptable there. Calcion listens to her introduction and repeats the name Selena. He then asks why she extended her hand. Selena says it was for a greeting, while thinking about whether she really needed to explain that, and that perhaps in that world this kind of etiquette might not even exist. Calcion then takes her hand and surprises her by kissing her fingers. Unable to say anything about his actions, Selena becomes embarrassed by the whole scene. Calcion, still holding her hand, looks into her eyes and welcomes her to this world. Coming out of her daze, Selena still tries to process the kiss on her hand and thinks that she has only received that kind of greeting in film shoots or, at most, at award ceremonies. She then thinks that for a warrior duke, he uses a sword with the same naturalness with which he kisses the back of someone's hand. I think she's quite shocked by that hand kiss, but I can't say anything because I'd be the same as her. Calcion then says that she seems to be a commoner, but even so shows the manners of someone from the nobility. Selena replies that where she comes from there is no distinction between nobles and commoners, and that in her land everyone is considered equally human. He simply responds that he can see that. She then asks what he meant by asking if she was a noble. Without hesitation, he replies that if she were a noble, she would be much more useful to him. Selena is surprised by his frankness and thinks about how he can judge whether he should save someone based on how useful that person seems to be. A little nervous, she asks if she is useless to him just because she is not a noble. He replies that she was the one who said she is useless, but that not being a noble makes her a little less useful to him. Selena asks what would happen to her if she were completely useless to him. Calcion begins to laugh. He holds her chin while saying that if she thinks she is useless, then she should start being useful. Leaning closer to her face, Calcion says that being useful or not will be the reason that determines whether she will be able to come down that mountain alive. Surprised by this, Selena can only think about how Calcion is truly acting exactly like the Duke of the North would in any situation. Selena was still trying to keep up with her own thoughts when she realized that Calcion was truly a copy and paste of the Duke of the North himself. She then notices that this is the moment that will define how committed she is and begins to say that she is holding Calcion's hand. Selena says that she is very useful and that in her world she was applauded for her performances. She promises that she will be useful even if she does not know exactly what her usefulness would be for. At that point, she didn't even really know what she could do, but she spoke with such conviction that even she herself ended up believing it. Calcion listens to everything Selena says and does not respond immediately. Selena, on the other hand, continues her promises and says that if necessary, she would dedicate her body and soul. Calcion frees himself from Selena's grip while saying that if she wanted to live in his kingdom, dedicating body and soul was the minimum she could do. Selena replies that if necessary, she would even kill another person for him. Calcion tells her to stop that nonsense and with complete calmness asks what exactly she could provide for the development of Renbird. Selena, you promised the world and more, but for this man empty words solve nothing. Selena blinked a few times, processing the question. Culture, technology, medicine, weapons, she didn't know any of that, but she could offer art and culture to the kingdom. When it came to art, she was a specialist, so taking a deep breath and lifting her chest, she begins by saying that she doesn't know if it would be of help to him, but she could contribute contribute to the development of Renbird's culture and art. Selena, with the pride of a movie star loved and adored by everyone, said that she was a famous actress, recognized by all, and that she was especially skilled because she knew how to use her body and voice masterfully. Halcyon, as always, breaks her rhythm and asks her to prove her abilities. He asks her to act right then and there. Like that, without context, without preparation, without direction. Selena is shocked by Halcyon's request, or rather order, to act suddenly, there, in the middle of the forest. All of that was very unusual for her. Beside a decapitated dragon was not exactly the ideal setting for an improvised performance, and she asks if he really wanted her to do that right there at that moment. With a look that seemed to judge her to the depths of her soul, he asks what the problem is and whether she cannot do what she is promising. With little choice and growing desperation, Selena asks what he wants to see her portray. Inside, she tries to understand what Halcyon wants with all of that. Halcyon hears her question, thinks for a moment, and seems to finally make up his mind. Looking at the ground, he makes the request. He wants to see her portraying a villain. I think we are seeing him having a flashback of some moment from his past. That look of his does not fool me. Selena is surprised by the request, while thinking about how he left the explanation far too vague and decides that she will have to improvise. Selena takes a deep breath as she decides to do it. Anything was better than simply dying. As if a switch had been flipped inside her, Selena stops being a helpless woman in danger and adopts a confident and proud posture. She moves toward him and raises her hand toward his head, which surprises Halcyon for a moment. As she pulls his head back, she looks at him with a frightening expression on her face. She then asks who he thinks he is to want to give her orders. Selena says she will not become his slave just because he saved her. While Halcyon seems surprised by her change in personality, Selena continues and asks if he thinks he can command everything just because he is a duke. She says he should stop beating around the bush and just say what she wants to hear. Wow, what a shift that was. She really deserves all the awards she won before. While on the outside, Selena was completely confident and threatening, on the inside, she could only think about what Halcyon's reaction would be. Would he accept her acting, or would he simply kill her because of the way she was acting? Halcyon, who until then had said nothing, opens a slight smile as he says that this was exactly what he expected. Selena hears this and thinks that this was very good, but she had not yet finished her performance. Still with her performance worthy of an Oscar for Best Villain, she questions Halcyon and asks why he is talking to himself and whether he has forgotten that she is right in front of him. Now she absolutely nailed that performance. That kind of acting could fool anyone even in real life. Imagine in a world that probably does not even know what cinema is. Halcyon remains silent while Selena thinks she may have gone too far in her acting. However, he says that she passed. Relieved, she cries with happiness while thinking that she will manage to survive, at least for now. Still seated, Halcyon says that if she managed to act like that with him as an opponent, she would be more than enough for the role he had in mind. Frightened, she asks what role he wants her to play while thinking about what his next request will be. With an expression of someone enjoying the whole situation, he says that her role will be to enter society as his lover, and that along with that, she will probably receive death threats. Well, she wanted a chance to live, but along with that she got a hazard bonus included in the package. Selena almost falls backward. What do you mean death threats? Was that a job or a sentence? However, Selena thinks that if she refused, he would leave her in the forest. In the state she was in, without food and without shelter, she would not survive. And that was not drama, it was a fact. Thinking about it a little more, Selena tries to understand why Halcyon chose her specifically for all of that. Setting aside the fact that she would have to enter society and face death threats, all of that seemed too political for her, and that could be very dangerous. However, something did not go unnoticed by her. Selena notices that for Halcyon to offer that job right after meeting her, there could only be one reason: he had no one he could trust for that job. And that was precisely the main advantage she would have in that negotiation. Selena then asks what she would gain in exchange for risking her own life. Without hesitation, he immediately replies that the price of her service would be her own life. Selena hears this and questions whether being alive was not exactly what she should expect for helping him. Halcyon replies by saying that if it were not for him, she would have been dead a long time ago. She does not give in and says that if that really were a life or death job, she would need some motivation to take part. Selena also says that even though she has just arrived in that world, she doubts anyone could act as well as she can. In addition, she states that he should have consideration for her. After all, she would be risking herself for a long time by having to enter noble society and not let any information about their plan slip. Selena then finishes by saying that she should at least have some return for the loyalty she would show to him and to the kingdom. That argument of hers is worthy of the greatest lawyers in the world. She is not leaving any loose ends for him to try to deceive her in the future. Halcyon listens to all her arguments and says that when she fulfills her mission, she will have everything to live comfortably: housing, resources, and anything necessary to settle down. But beyond that, he says that he could even try to find a way to send her back home. Selena feels her heart stop for a second at this last opportunity Halcyon offered and asks if she could really return to the place she came from. Halcyon explains that there was no guarantee. The supposed path passed through lands filled with monsters and indescribable dangers. He says that only a great mage managed to make that journey in the past and that no one since then has managed to repeat the feat. Kalkuyan states that if she succeeded in his task, he would personally take her to that passage. However, there was no guarantee of success, since both of them were just ordinary people. For Selena, that ray of hope turned into the greatest sun she had ever seen in her life. She thinks about how all the stories she knew showed protagonists settling in the new world, creating roots, finding family, but she had nothing there, nothing that held her heart. Everything she loved was in the place she came from. Family, friends, memories, career. She did not want to start over. She wanted to go back. She lifts her face and says firmly that she will do whatever is necessary. Kalkuyan says nothing. He simply smiles at Selena's answer and decision. He then says that now that they have reached an agreement, they should go to the castle and talk better when they get there. I am even eager to see what these two are going to get up to in this Duke's kingdom. At dusk, 2 guards are at the city gate. They go on alert when they see a figure approaching. Kalkuyan stops in front of the guards while they ask if he is all right. However, the guards notice that the Duke is carrying someone and are surprised. The Duke says he is fine and explains that he found the young woman in the forest and rescued her from being killed by monsters. He also says that he was delayed because he had to bring her along. Selena says nothing and pretends everything is normal while the 2 guards exchange glances, questioning the story and trying to understand who the mysterious young woman is. One of the guards says that he understands the Duke's situation and states that he will send a message to the castle. He comments that the Duke must be tired from carrying the woman the whole way and offers help to carry Selena. She, however, refuses to be carried by the guard and tries to nestle even more into Calcion's arms. The guards are surprised by Selena's attitude and cannot decide what to do. Selena, on the other hand, gives Calcion a sharp look, discreetly nudges his arm, and reminds him in a low voice that he needed to keep up appearances if he wanted the lie to work. Going back a bit in time, we see that on the way back to the castle, Selena and Calcion were talking. In the middle of the path, she says that they should think of a plan before arriving at the castle. Selena says that she still does not understand the reason they need to pretend to be lovers. However, if they are going to do that, he, as the Duke, needs to fully commit to the act. She explains that it would be very suspicious for a mysterious woman to appear out of nowhere claiming to be the Duke's new love, and that they needed to think of a good story for the 2 of them. Calcion listens and admits that he had not really thought about it that way, and that it could become a problem for his plans. Selena then says that the best option would be to go with the story that she was a damsel in distress, and that he saved her and fell in love with her at first sight. Actually, that story is the pure truth. The difference is that the Duke has not fallen in love with her yet. Returning to the present, Selena says that she does not want to be carried by anyone other than the Duke. All the guards stare at the scene of the Duke and the mysterious young woman without saying anything. Selena keeps her head down at the city gate while thinking that there was no way for her not to take action in the performance. Otherwise, their plan would end right there. She looks at Calcion and sees how he is trembling and seems to be extremely nervous about the situation. He knows that any slip will break the entire story they invented. I would be shaking too with all of this. A few hours earlier, before leaving toward the city, Selena silently stares at Calcion. Observing the Duke's cold gaze that does not change, she decides to test his reaction and with the sweetest voice possible asks him to spare her. Calcion sarcastically asks if his loving gaze is perhaps too much for her. Selena then says that she feels like prey in that situation. She then tries to change the situation and suggests a smile to break the mood. Hearing her suggestion, Calcion gives her a smile, however his smile is more threatening than charming. He gave her a smile, it just was not what she was expecting. I loved that interaction. Selena tries to joke, saying that she knows his smile and that he looks excited to kill her later with that smile. Calcion then asks what she thinks about him actually killing her. Seeing this, Selena immediately stops joking and apologizes for bothering him. Selena then gets straight to the point with him. She says that to pretend to be a villain and a lover, it is necessary to create a scenario. She says that she needs context and that without it, no one will believe the 2 of them. After all, it is not possible to deceive the nobility by pretending a romance with him while always having a look that seems like he wants to kill her. He listens in silence while realizing that this will be much more difficult than he imagined and agrees with a dry nod. I really have to agree with her. There is no way to sell a story without having a good background. Selena then makes her suggestion and says that her plan is to make it seem like she seduced him. Calcion does not seem to understand what she means by that. She then explains that it will not be real, and that it will all be an act. Selena then explains that the story they will create. She then explains the plan they should follow. After he saved her in the forest, she will become determined to seduce him after that, and that is why she is so attached to him, since their first meeting, and has not left his side for a single second. Calcion listens to the plan and says that if they go with that plan, the general impression will be that he is not trustworthy. Selena explains that this would be better than a love at first sight story, especially with his stern expression. He then thinks about how sometimes he ends up without arguments in these situations. I have to say, I really liked her plan. She will not look like just a helpless girl, although it might give the impression that she is opportunistic, right? Selena continues and says that this foundation can work and that they can think through this plan step by step, and that if he cannot act with words, he will need to act through his actions. Calcion then asks what he should do for her plan to work. Selena then begins to define the central rule of the plan. She says that in public he will need to say yes to everything. Indignant, he asks how crazy she is to suggest that he act like that in front of his entire kingdom. Without flinching at what he said, Selena ironically calls him Your Grace and says that love is a crazy thing and that he needs to act that way for it to be believable. Honestly, the idea of him suddenly being madly in love with her might actually work. She continues by saying that he has attitudes that resemble someone who has fallen into the trap of love, that he must give the impression that he would do anything for her without thinking about the consequences. With an expression that shows he did not like her suggestions very much, Calcion still has to listen to Selena say that, as she imagined he has never truly loved someone. I think she is playing a bit too much with the person who can decide whether she lives or dies in this monster-filled forest. She continues to dominate the conversation by saying that Your Grace Duke Calcion has to act as if he is falling deeply in love with her. Selena then says that even if he finds it difficult to act that way, he could leave it to her, but even so, he still needs to say at least something, because if he remains silent in every situation, it will not be easy in the long run to make people believe in the two of them. Calcion then asks what kinds of things he should say in those situations. Selena thinks for a moment and tells him to try saying, "This woman is mine." He asks if that was supposed to sound like she was his slave. She then says that this idea is not very good since that kind of thing is possible for him as a duke. She then suggests that he say, "I will not let anyone else lay their hands on my woman." Calcion asks if he should not just remove those people's hands by force. Is this guy dense? He does not understand anything that is not physical or verbal violence. Selena tries to think of something else that Calcion could try to say so she could understand him better. She then suggests that they practice a simple dialogue so she can understand him as an actor. An hour passes and the two of them try to have a convincing dialogue and Selena is completely disappointed with the result and does not understand how it is not working. Completely indignant, she asks more to herself than to him, how all the attempts went wrong and why he cannot simply remove that murderous expression from his face. Calcion defends himself by saying that the real actress there is her, and that she should know how to make all of that work. Even more indignant, Selena thinks to herself that the only one doing anything wrong there is him. She then asks them to try again from the beginning, from the first step to the last. Calcion then tries to speak again, but can only mumble inaudible things, and Selena asks him to try again, then tells him to speak louder, and finally asks him to try properly. Back at the gate with the guards watching everything, Calcion has a lost expression, while Selena is also starting to get nervous. She then leans closer to his face and whispers for him to hurry up and do his part, because his subordinates are starting to get suspicious. It seems the job will be more difficult than expected. The guards do not understand the whisper, and one of them asks what Selena is saying to the Duke. Calcion then starts to speak, however he can only stutter. Selena watches him while encouraging him mentally, telling herself that he can do it and that he just needs to follow the script they practiced and that he needs to say it. Calcion finally snaps out of his daze and with firmness in his words, says that he himself will carry her to the palace. All the guards are shocked by the Duke's words, and while still trying to process that entire scene, Calcion walks off with Selena in his arms while saying that he will return to the castle immediately. Watching the two of them leave, only one thought crosses the guards' minds. Was the Duke possessed by demons to act like that? Looking over his shoulder, Selena looks at the guards and sees their reaction at the gate. With a smile on her face, she says that Calcion did very well in making everyone surprised by their acting. Blushing with embarrassment, Calcion tells her to just be quiet. Selena holds back a laugh when she sees his reaction, but says nothing. Calcion then asks why she is acting like that. She then says that it is nothing and that she thinks he might finally be able to handle all of this in the future. Calcion hears her and says nothing in response. They are quite cute interacting like this. I am already shipping the couple. Arriving at the inner courtyard of the castle, Calcion continues carrying Selena in his arms. A group of servants greets him while saying that a bath and a meal have been prepared for him. Without stopping walking, Calcion simply tells them to prepare all of that for one more person. Without hesitation, they reply that everything will be prepared for the guest. Is acting like that with servants a trait of every noble? How can he act so coldly with everyone like that? Inside the castle, Selena almost collapses at the entrance and admits that she is exhausted, even though they have barely begun the act. She then says that the castle was bigger than she imagined. Unbo has the sits prepared Rensify Asias, evil one for fine and intiskar, a lark and GC at of. Calcion comments that the castle being too big should not be a reason for her to be impressed by all of that. As they head toward some sofas, Selena says that because of this kind of surprise from her, they should prepare better and that now was the moment for them to finish the preparations of the plan. Selena directly asks why he needs her so much to act as his villainous lover. Calcion calmly reveals that his former fiancée died and that rumors said she was a villain. Selena apologizes for what happened, shocked by the indifference with which he speaks of her death as if he were reporting a military report. He explains that he does not feel sadness, only anger, because someone dared to touch a fiancée he himself had personally chosen. I cannot agree with his attitude of acting as if other people were merely tools for his use. Selena becomes confused when he talks about choosing as if it were a job interview, and she tries to understand what he means by that. She thinks about how that marriage was not a matter of love, much less an arranged marriage, but rather a choice. Selena then says that this was something expected from the Duke of the North. Calcion looks at her while saying that her comment does not make it seem like that was a compliment. Selena looks away while feeling embarrassed about it, and Calcion seems to get irritated with her. Returning to the subject, Selena asks how his fiancé died, wanting to finally understand the reason for the act. The Duke explains that since the North previously did not attract attention, few people cared about that region, until gold was discovered there. After that, several families began sending marriage proposals, and he chose the calm and gentle Baroness to avoid conflicts between the houses. But before the engagement, she was found dead in the Duke's own mansion, on the night before the event. Calcion states that it was clearly a challenge against the Renbird Duchy, someone proving that they could kill a person inside his mansion. He reveals that it was also a silent threat, as if they were telling him not to marry anyone outside their circle of power. Selena feels the chill in his voice when he says that whoever dared to do that must be ready to lose their head. Honestly, even I would have a chill down my spine after hearing him tell that grim story so naturally. He says that the death was declared a suicide, but because of the deep wounds on the fiancé's hand, he knows that is not possible. Selena questions whether he is sure just by looking at the wound, but Calcion explains that there are not many people capable of injuring themselves like that, much less the Baroness. She asks if he tried to speak with the deceased family, and he replies that he did, but the Baron did not want to contradict the official version. Selena completes his statement and says that this is why the Duke needed to investigate on his own, infiltrating society, something impossible for someone with his direct and intimidating behavior. Goodness, this plan is much deeper than I thought. Selena finally understands the reason for everything. For the plan to work, he needs someone who knows how to act and naturally fit into noble society. After a knock on the door, one of the servants informs Calcion that the bath is ready and asks if he may enter the room. Selena panics when she realizes that there are servants responsible just for that, and that her modern clothes might draw attention. She becomes desperate, thinking about whether she should wrap herself again in the large cloak to disguise everything. Calcion, in his uncomfortable calmness, simply suggests that she take off her clothes and get into the bath, as if it were the most logical thing in the world. She immediately refuses, remembering that she could be caught in the middle of the process and that would ruin everything. He then suggests entering while still wearing her clothes, which obviously solves nothing because the clothes would be seen anyway. Selena then has a brilliant idea and tells the Duke not to be startled if she does something strange. He simply replies that it is fine and that she may do whatever she wants, as if he were used to any madness she proposes. Selena prepares to enter actress mode and says that she will show him what real acting is. Faced with the sudden silence coming from inside, the housekeeper begins knocking on the door while asking for the Duke, leaving Calcion visibly nervous. Selena then begins her performance and tells the Duke to trust her while thinking that this was just a play with an audience and that it would not be any problem she could not handle. She prepares herself while saying out loud that she needs to focus her strength on her stomach so that her voice comes out even louder. Selena takes a deep breath and declares with full intensity that she does not want anyone near them, not even the Duke's servants. She insists vehemently that she does not want anyone touching his body, which leaves everyone outside completely confused, so she decided to embody the role of a jealous woman. I loved it. Inside, Selena and Calcion stare at each other in silence, waiting for the response from the people outside. The servants begin whispering, imagining what might be happening inside, while inside the room Selena tells Calcion to dismiss all the servants already. He then tells the servants to leave, that they do not need their help. The housekeeper does not seem to understand what the Duke wants, but says she understands him and makes all of them leave the door. Selena finally relaxes and lets out a deep sigh, saying that she was very nervous, but that they managed it. She then says that now she will be able to take her bath in peace and asks where the bathroom is. Calcion points out the direction of the bathroom, still in shock from Selena's recent actions. She heads toward the bathroom while thinking that she will finally be able to rest after the madness that her day was. However, she still wonders how she will get rid of her modern clothes, even considering burning them. She walks down the corridor to the bathroom and is impressed by the size and luxury of the place, almost losing focus for a moment. Suddenly, she calls the Duke again because she had another idea, asking him to come closer quickly. Dressed in a robe, Selena faces Calcion with great confidence. She throws her clothes at Calcion while telling him to tear all of them apart. Calcion looks at Selena wearing the robe and with nothing underneath. Is he having thoughts that go against their plan of not getting romantically involved? He then turns away so as not to look at her anymore and starts tearing the clothes. Selena finds it amusing and asks if he turned away just so he would not see her in the robe. While thinking that he is being cute, she then comments that he is good at tearing clothes and that it looks as if he is dealing with paper. Calcion replies that it is nothing like that, then stops tearing the clothes and hesitates for a moment. Seeing him hesitate, she teases him by asking if it is difficult to tear them, while Calcion seems to have heard something outside the bathroom. Suddenly, he pulls her close and she asks desperately what he is doing like that, so unexpectedly. Calcion explains in a low voice that someone is listening behind the door, which completely changes the mood. Selena is startled, imagining a spy or assassin, while the Duke confirms it as if it were something routine for him. She tries to understand how he is so calm, but he just observes as if he were already internally debating the best way to kill the person behind the door. Selena reacts immediately, horrified, asking if he is considering sparing or killing the person. He responds with the utmost calm that he is only thinking about how to kill. She takes a deep breath and mentally calls him crazy, remembering that it is still uncomfortable to see someone someone die even in these circumstances. To prevent a tragedy, Selena quickly says that they should use the person instead of killing them, turning the situation into an advantage. Calcion asks what she means, and she explains that that person would be perfect to hear a convincing performance from the two of them, instead of relying on his terrible natural acting. He replies that even if the spy can only hear, they will still need to create a believable scenario, which requires a realistic performance. Selena thinks about how he finally admitted that he is terrible at acting. Calcion then asks if they should not do something for real, so that whoever is outside believes the two of them. Selena almost loses her mind at the absurd idea, and mentally calls him an idiot, unable to believe he would think that. When she calls him a pervert in her thoughts, she pushes the Duke away. Her attitude, along with her saying that she never imagined he would be such a man, leaves Calcion extremely confused. She ignores his confusion and says that she will do the entire performance alone, while he just needs to tear the clothes properly. Still in shock, Calcion is unable to respond to her. Selena even suggests that he could smile or call her by name, but immediately gives up because that would be very strange coming from him. She grabs Calcion by the arm and throws him into the bathtub, while falling on top of him with a smile on her face. She asks if he does not remember her acting earlier, and while Calcion is surprised and confused, she tells him to leave it to the professional in acting. Wow, what kind of performance is she trying to do with him like this? I am shocked by this turn of events. Selena takes a deep breath, trying to compose herself after the intense performance, while the Duke watches her as if he cannot believe what he has just witnessed. He comments, still in shock, remembering Selena pretending that they were enjoying themselves in the bath, how she managed to portray such an embarrassing role so naturally. She replies proudly that that is what he could call acting. Selena, still kneeling in the bathtub, asks him if the spy has already left. Calcion confirms that yes, saying that the intruder probably thought there was nothing more to hear after that passionate display. Selena teases him, saying that he also got all flustered with the scene. Honestly, I would also be embarrassed in that whole situation. I understand you, Calcion. She then says that they need to hurry to take a bath and call the maids before the water gets cold, reinforcing that they still have a lot of work ahead. Selena comments with a mischievous look that she is curious to see the maid's reaction when they discover that the Duke brought a woman to the castle. And just as Selena expected, the maid who is outside the room is truly in shock. The young maid is in shock and murmurs to herself as she imagines the fact that they were alone together and starts imagining countless things beyond reality. When the maid finally enters the room, she trembles, not knowing how to behave, and apologizes in case she caused any misunderstanding for the two of them. She then offers to accompany Selena to the bath and help her get ready, which makes Selena excited at the prospect of wearing beautiful clothes. Selena mentally comments that that excited reaction must be perfect to reinforce the image of the passionate lover in the castle. After some time, the maids present the final result, and Selena is impressed by the amount of jewelry and luxurious fabrics she is wearing. She asks if those clothes are really for her, considering the adornments almost like historical artifacts because they are so valuable. The maids praise her, saying that she looks stunning, and explain that Lady Janet had ordered them to dress her like that, which surprises Selena. They then reveal that that dress belonged to the former Duchess, Calcion's mother, leaving Selena even more uncomfortable with the situation. Selena questions whether it is all right to wear something so important, but the maids insist that they need to show it to the Duke immediately. I do not know about this. I think that outfit might cause trouble, since when does a guest simply wear his mother's clothes? Then suddenly Selena enters the Duke's room, eager to show him the result. She eagerly asks if she looks beautiful, asking him to say something and to call her beautiful. Calcion looks at Selena with a serious expression without saying anything. His reaction makes her wonder why he is acting like that. Could it be because the dress belongs to his mother? Frightened, the maid apologizes, saying that she only did what she was ordered to do. He asks in a cold tone whose decision it was to dress Selena in the former Duchess's clothes, and immediately demands that the person responsible be brought. Selena then stops him from saying anything else, pulling his tie and bringing his face close to hers. She then says that she does not understand why he is thinking about anything other than her right in front of him. Inside, she thinks about how she understands Calcion being upset, and that anyone would feel that way seeing a stranger wearing his mother's clothes. However, that was not her fault at all. Continuing the act, she asks him again if she is not beautiful in those clothes. Still internally, she thinks for him not to take it out on her, and that he could let it pass this time and instruct the maids later. She insists for him to say that she is beautiful, explaining that wearing something so important loses its meaning if he does not approve. Selena looks at the Duke waiting for his answer while thinking about how both of them are tired from that day. Calcion finally gives in and says, in a short and almost inaudible way, that she is beautiful, which makes Selena think about how it is so difficult for him to say just that to her. Interrupting the couple's moment, Lady Janet, the palace housekeeper, appears apologizing to the Duke. She admits that it was she who ordered Selena to be dressed like that, saying that it was the only dress the Duke had never seen before. Calcion retorts that it does not matter if he has never seen it. It is impossible not to recognize an object that belonged to his mother. Lady Janet continues her apologies and says that she did not expect the Duke to recognize that dress so easily. Selena notices that Janet does not back down easily and finds this tension between the woman and the Duke strange, but says nothing so as not to make the situation worse. When Calcion asks if there are no other suitable dresses in the castle, Janet replies that only the Duchess's dresses would suit the social position of the Duke's companion. Selena notices that that woman speaks with unusual boldness, almost challenging the Duke while subtly criticizing Selena's presence. She even thinks that, knowing the Duke's personality, he would not let that attitude go unnoticed. However, Calcion surprises her by apologizing to Janet and thanking her for the work she has done all this time taking care of the castle. This small turn of events surprises Selena, while she thinks about how the woman simply handled all the Duke's family relics without his permission and still argued about it in front of everyone. Selena is left wondering why Calcion is so indulgent with Janet, since that does not match his personality at all. I think that Janet must be practically like a second mother to the Duke. There is no other explanation. Janet says that she is just doing her job, and Calcion then says that it is late and that he and Selena only want to have dinner and rest. Janet then asks for permission and says that she will soon bring their dinner. She leaves the room looking at Selena with an ironic smile. Selena is surprised by Janet's attitude and wonders why the woman is acting like that toward her. When the food arrives, Selena is enchanted by the banquet and begins to act naturally, showing her curiosity and excitement. Calcion introduces Dion, his closest friend, and explains that he is aware of the entire plan the two of them are carrying out. Selena relaxes a bit upon hearing that, stating that she no longer needs to act there, since she is now speaking among allies. Dion asks if all of that was also acting, and Selena retorts that there is no reason to fake a basic greeting. She jokes by asking if Dion has been fooled his whole life to the point of distrusting even a hello. She explains that she needs to rest and that she does not need to be acting all the time, only when necessary. Dion comments that even if the feelings do not exist now, they may arise later, since someone at the Duke's level is desirable to anyone. Selena quickly replies that she values her own life too much to get involved with someone like that, and that she would never be greedy in something so risky. She reinforces that even if she desired wealth, it would never be through the Duke, since he is definitely not her type, which even surprises Calcion himself. Selena makes it clear that she likes kind people with sweet words, not someone cold and direct like Calcion. She continues by saying that she would never fall in love with Calcion, and that this should not be a concern for Dion. While Calcion looks at Selena in shock as she says all of that at once, she finally states that under no circumstances will she fall in love with the Duke. Wow, she really poured a bucket of cold water over Calcion with that statement. Selena then asks Calcion whether Dion might have enough skill to take part in the acting they need for the plan to work. She asks that they continue working together and that they take care of her from now on, and that Dion should not be surprised if she does something that goes off their script. Dion tries to ask for some kind of warning, but Selena says that improvisation also has its value. The Duke watches Selena dominate his best friend and can only think about how he understands the feeling of being left speechless because of her. It is incredible how she manages to be so articulate with everyone who appears in front of her, isn't it? Calcion decides to end the dinner and dismisses Dion, leaving the two of them alone to continue talking. The Duke then explains some rules, saying that spies may appear anywhere, and that even her inner thoughts can be dangerous. Selena says that this is not a problem, since she has always lived being watched and is used to this kind of pressure. He then adds another rule: they should not act when they are alone. Selena immediately refuses, saying that they need to practice to appear natural in public. She argues that if he has complaints about that, then he should act better instead of avoiding practice. Calcion listens to all of the young woman's complaints while thinking that perhaps he should give up on this plan. However, Selena seems to hear his thoughts and says that he cannot back out now, since the plan has already started. She continues by saying that since she has already appeared in front of the entire kingdom, and that the appearance of the spy and his confrontation with Lady Janet have already created strong rumors, if he gives up now, they will seem even more suspicious to all of society. Calcion acknowledges that she is right, and Selena asks him to forget any unnecessary thoughts, focusing only on what they need to do. She then asks who are the people she should be most careful with, and Calcion admits that there is one in particular. Calcion says that this person is troublesome, and Selena wonders who could be someone who would affect the Duke like that just by being mentioned. Selena imagines what kind of person would make him like that, perhaps an elegant villain, or maybe an intimidating noble. The doubt lingers in the air as they go to sleep. The next day, when Calcion is about to explain about the person who bothers him, the door suddenly opens with a shrill voice calling for the Duke. Selena looks at the excited person who enters without asking permission and immediately realizes that this is the problematic presence. Calcion confirms without hesitation that yes, that is the person he is tired of, and Selena understands that the first suspect has appeared. The first suspect appears before them, and Selena immediately realizes that she is neither an elegant villain nor an intimidating noble, but rather a walking hurricane dressed in silk. Fionel arrives calling for the Duke dramatically, saying that she was worried about him, and that is why she rushed to Renbird. She thinks about how the noblewoman arrived there already, planning to make this meeting with the Duke happen. Selena observes Fionel and immediately understands why Calcion finds her unbearable. Calcion confirms her suspicions and says that Fionel is very exhausting to keep around for long. Selena remembers that it has only been a month since the Duke's former fiancé was murdered, and yet Fionel appears chasing after him as if she had already planned to come to Renbird right after the funeral. She thinks about how Fionel seems eager to take the empty place beside Calcion, but she cannot quite understand the exact reason for it. After all, it seems that being by Calcion's side is very dangerous, especially considering that anyone who becomes his fiancé is at risk of death. What kind of cursed place is this? The promise of marrying a rising noble comes with a high risk of death. Selena concludes that there are only two explanations. Either Fionel has no awareness of the danger at all, or she is bold enough to be the killer herself, and that thought keeps hammering in Selena's mind. After all of this is too suspicious to be just a coincidence. Calcion tries to cut off the young woman's approach by saying that he did not call her there, but Fionel insists that she came as an uninvited guest to comfort him in his grief, and asks if the Duke will acknowledge her feelings. Selena realizes that the only sensible action is to run, and that is exactly what she does, dragging the Duke away, the two of them walking quickly without looking back. Fionel shouts after them, running desperately to catch up, but unable to match their pace. Calcion completely ignores her calls, and Fionel demands to know who Selena is, asking why the Duke is taking care of that unknown woman. Everything gets worse when Calcion answers only with the literal truth, saying that Selena was a woman he picked up along the way. He really does not know the appropriate moment to say something like that. Fionel complains that she traveled 7 days from the capital, but Calcion naturally replies that Selena came from even farther away. Despite the chase, Fionel finally catches up with them and reaffirms that she suffered a lot to be there. Selena observes the young woman and can only think about how persistent Fionel is, and that if she were in the Olympics, she would definitely win a gold medal. She takes the opportunity to extend her hand to the Duke and try to force a romantic contact, asking him to hold her hand because she is tired. Calcion rejects it immediately, and Fionel falls into theatrical despair, asking him to do just like this, trying to imitate the gesture in the air. When she looks away from the Duke, Selena notices the silent threat in Fionel's eyes directed straight at her. Well then, and I thought only the Duke had a deadly and intimidating gaze. Selena is outraged by the noblewoman's attitude, and can only think about how she knows how to strike back at that threat. She then decides to retaliate with the most powerful cultural weapon of her homeland, acting deliberately cute. Selena starts speaking in a spoiled child's voice, complaining that she is hungry and that her feet hurt. Fionel does not even know how to react and starts trembling with poorly concealed anger, outraged by the little act. Selena keeps insisting on the childish tone, saying absurd phrases like 1 + 1 is cute, just to irritate her rival even more. The impact is overwhelming. Fionel steps back and begins to complain loudly, calling Selena cruel and envious, while pretending that she is going to faint to draw attention. Calcion orders a maid to escort Fionel to a room so she can rest, putting an end to all that drama. As they leave, Selena looks back at Fionel and, without saying anything, she simply sticks out her tongue at her rival. The noblewoman is outraged and starts shouting, but the couple simply ignores her and continues on their way. When Fionel is taken away, Selena celebrates the internal victory and declares that Korea has won another cultural battle. Goodness, what kind of turn was that just now? I did not expect to see a duel of cuteness and conquest at this point. While they are having lunch, Selena comments on how Fionel seems to be quite a rare case and that she will not find many people as aggressive as her in society. She then asks if everyone in that world acts that way, but Calcion states that not everyone is like that and that Fionel is the one who is very strange. Selena comments that Fionel has a very aggressive personality and asks if she has a lot of influence in that society. Calcion replies that there are many influential people, but that each of them has their own type of power and influence. Selena finally realizes that the level of difficulty of that mission is much higher than she imagined, and tries to renegotiate the compensation with the Duke. Calcion easily accepts the request, which surprises Selena, as she did not expect him to accept her proposal so easily. Selena jokes about how the Duke accepted it so easily, and says that he should increase what was promised to her 100-fold. Calcion notices her joke and says that they should just forget that, and Selena apologizes saying that it was just a joke, and Calcion says that there was nothing funny about it. Selena thinks to herself that this plan is really going to be very exhausting for her, especially because she has to deal with various political aspects of a society she does not know. In addition, she will have to fight in a repugnant struggle, where she cannot trust anyone but herself. Selena promises herself that she will endure until they find the real culprit, swearing that she will not die or get hurt in the process. Calcion asks if she has finished eating, and she replies that she does not even have an appetite anymore after thinking about the complicated future, and the Duke simply says that that is a pity. He, however, continues his meal without saying anything else. Selena looks at his plate and decides to ask for a piece for herself. Calcion says that she should eat her own plate. She continues by saying that his plate looks more delicious than hers, and says that she needs to eat well to work hard. Calcion then offers his plate to her, and Selena says that she cannot eat such a large piece of steak. She pushes the plate back and asks him to cut the meat for her, so that they do not have to ask for another knife for both of them. Calcion then gives in and cuts the meat and offers the plate to her. Selena seems disappointed, which creates more confusion for the Duke. She then says that she cannot eat using her own hands and tells him to feed her. What What boldness is that? Is there someone else watching them now? Calcion is surprised while saying that Selena is truly someone unexpected. Selena just laughs and tells him to hurry up and feed her. The Duke looks at Selena opening her mouth and waiting for his action. Then, with no choice, he puts a piece of meat on the fork and extends it to her mouth while thinking about how they should act even when no one is watching them. Selena finally eats the meat that Calcion offers her and says that it is delicious. She smiles again, stating that her appetite has finally returned and asks the maids for dessert. Calcion looks at the fork he used to feed Selena while thinking about how he only did that with Arel, his former fiancée, and how he never imagined he would do something like that again with someone else. Well, look at his feelings for her starting to emerge. Calcion looks at the fork while trying to understand what led him to act that way with Selena. Even if it might be something trivial like just giving a piece of food to Selena, it made him think about how he believed he would never do something like that again. Selena, meanwhile, panics silently when she realizes that the Duke simply disappeared after feeding her, as if he had fled from a bad date. My God, did he really just run away so he would not have to face the young woman? She complains mentally that he understands absolutely nothing about relationships and that escape was far too abrupt even for his standards. Trying not to panic, she decides to focus on the real objective and remembers that they still know very little about the case of the murdered fiancé. She focuses on the main mission and realizes that, to move forward, she needs to teach the Duke at least a minimum sense of romance to make their disguise convincing. With that in mind, she has a sudden idea and runs off to put her plan into action. Selena asks a servant where the Duke is and discovers that he is probably in the office, which makes it easier to begin the romance operation. She appears at the window of the Duke's office holding flowers and knocks on the glass dramatically, stating that this kind of gesture should make his heart race. Caldian opens the window, clearly not knowing how to react to the scene, and invites her to come in with a confused expression. She enters smiling and begins to explain that she is trying to create a romantic scenario to teach the Duke how to act with more emotional sensitivity. Calcion watches her with an empty look while she shows off, asking if he does not think that she is gradually trying to make him fall in love. Selena replies that she remembers their agreement not to fall in love, but that he himself needs to learn how to act like someone who is in love. The Duke asks what exactly she wants there, and Selena replies that she is carrying out a romantic event on her own to inspire him. He tries to analyze the gesture with the flowers and concludes that that is romantic. Selena admits that she did it because she is exhausted from the entire day of tension. She insists that if he sends her away now, it will create gossip among the servants, which would completely harm their plan. With a defeated sigh, Calcion accepts that she may stay there, as long as she does not do anything noisy. I simply love how she manages in any situation to make the Duke act the way she wants. She is a powerful diva. Selena jokes, saying that she will not even blink, and that she will stay quietly reading a book while he works. She sits down and promises to stay quiet, assuring that she will not disturb the Duke, who has already been overwhelmed since the beginning of the day. Calcion decides not to argue with the young woman while telling her to just rest while he works. He then looks at the flowers that Selena brought with her and says that she has been putting in a lot of effort since the morning. Selena thinks about how that was unexpected coming from him and replies that this was only the beginning of their plan. While he works, she ends up falling asleep on the sofa, exhausted, and when she wakes up, she is surprised to realize that she was covered with his coat. Selena finds that unexpectedly cute. She stretches while thinking about how her body feels stiff and that she should move a bit to feel better. She decides to go to the training grounds to find him and perhaps learn something about the combat techniques of that region. She imagines that physical training together would help their chemistry, making the fake romance even more convincing. Selena asks a maid where the Duke is. The maid looks her up and down, completely ignoring her status as the Duke's guest, and replies that he is at the training grounds. That cold and completely rude response makes her reflect on the unexpected disrespect toward her as the master's guest, and Selena seriously considers whether she should start acting like the villain everyone believes she is. She tries to ask where the training ground is and finally receives a vague direction, but realizes that she is about to lose her patience. Well, that was quite a sudden shift. It seems no one likes her inside this castle. After walking for a while, she realizes that she got lost inside the castle and has no idea where she is going. While walking through the garden without knowing exactly where to go, Selena wonders if those attitudes from the maids also happened to Arel when she arrived at the palace, but she pushes that thought aside and decides that it is not the moment to think about that. Selena thinks about how she got so irritated by the maid's attitude that she did not properly ask for directions and now she is lost. With no one around, the cold starts to intensify and she wonders if someone might appear to help her. Then she spots a figure in the distance and her expression drops when she recognizes Fionel wandering lost around the castle. Was there really no one better to run into at this moment? She notices that Fionel seems to have been walking in circles for a long time, probably searching for the Duke. Fionel notices Selena and rudely asks where she is going, adopting a completely different tone from the one she uses near Calcion. Selena replies that Fionel is not dressed appropriately to be thinking about going to meet the Duke. Fionel becomes irritated and says that there is nothing wrong with her appearance, since she has a more natural style. Selena, still mocking, says that that might work for any man, but it probably would not work with Calcion. Fionel begins to lose her patience when Selena starts repeating her words in a provocative way, imitating her voice like an annoying parrot. Selena then tells the noblewoman that she will not get irritated just because Fionel starts shouting at her, and that she could retaliate even with one hand tied behind her back. The two end up falling into a heated argument with one shouting louder than the other. Fionel, indignant, asks if Selena is really a noble to act that way. Selena replies that she is not a noble at all, and that she is just a normal person. Indignant at her rival's response, Fionel asks what Selena's problem is for answering her like that, while being just a commoner. Selena retorts that even if she is a commoner, she is still one of the Duke's guests, just like Fionel is. Throw the truth in that scoundrel's face, Selena. Do not let her think too highly of herself. Unable to respond to Selena properly, Fionel is left speechless while she takes a deep breath, trying to recover her composure. Fionel then coldly asks if Selena has money or some powerful patron, implying that without that, she is nothing but social trash. Selena questions what that has to do with anything, but Fionel leans closer and says in a deadly tone that if Selena keeps acting that way, she might really die. Selena freezes upon hearing those words and immediately asks herself, could it be that Fionel is involved in the death of the previous fiancé? Fionel, with a very serious expression, tells Selena that if she continues by the Duke's side, she might die. The noblewoman's words keep echoing in Selena's mind, and she can only think about how absurd it is to hear someone so casually say that she might die. Selena cannot stop thinking that Fionel must be involved in the murder of the Duke's former fiancé. The weight of that threat is different, and Selena realizes it immediately. There is a serious, almost cruel tone that is impossible to ignore. She realizes that she is completely alone in the middle of the labyrinthine garden, unarmed and facing someone who might truly be a killer. The thought that Fionel might be armed arises immediately, and Selena imagines a knife hidden within her heavy dress. She tries to stay calm, remembering that she trained in martial arts in her world, and that perhaps she could take someone like Fionel down in a direct confrontation. But then she realizes the vulnerable position she is in. If there are accomplices hidden in the vegetation around them, it does not matter how much she fights. Even though she does not say it directly, it is very clear that Selena is suspicious of everything and everyone in this new world. Her heart races as she evaluates every corner of the garden, convinced that she might be surrounded without even knowing it. Selena freezes in fear, trying to imagine all possible scenarios and trying to find a way out of each one. Fortunately, most of Selena's current problems are resolved when a voice calls her name. The Duke suddenly appears, and Selena's soul returns to her body immediately. She practically collapses into his arms. She grabs his arm and says that she was terrified, mixing relief and indignation for having been left alone for so long. Calcion tries to understand what happened. He turns and notices Fionel's presence. She is startled when she notices the Duke's gaze. With a stern expression on his face, he asks the unwelcome visitor what happened between her and Selena. Noticing that she is in a complicated situation, Fionel looks away and stutters while trying to think of an answer for Calcion. Meanwhile, Selena takes a deep breath and composes herself, because now, with the Duke there, she can finally resume her role as a professional actress. Selena realizes that with Calcion by her side and supporting her, she has no need to feel afraid or cornered, and that this is her moment to finally take her performance to the limit and turn the tables against Fionel and her veiled threat. With her best performance as a helpless and frightened young woman, Selena tells Calcion how Fionel said that she would die if she did not know her place. Fionel, noticing her rival's plan, is shocked by Selena's audacity and tries to regain the lost ground. Then, before Calcion can notice, the two young women grab onto his arms and begin trying to win the Duke's sympathy. Honestly, I really hope Fionel is not the killer. I am starting to like her more and more. Calcion, noticing that the situation is at the very least disastrous for his head, begins to feel as if his ears are going to explode. In the end, Calcion cannot bear all of this. He falls to the ground to make the two young women stop talking. Impressed by the Duke's reaction, she wonders if someone as athletic as Calcion was brought down just by all of that. I do not blame the Duke at all. If I were in that situation, I would also fake a faint just to escape all that chatter. Selena turns her gaze to Fionel while thinking about the best way to make her rival leave her and the Duke alone. Selena then throws herself again into Calcion's arms while saying that she is so tired and cold after searching for him all this time. With a charming and gentle look, she finally asks if he can carry her. Calcion immediately accepts the request and holds her in his arms. The scene shocks Fionel, who tries to protest again. The Duke, however, ignores the complaints and asks some servants to escort Fionel to her room. Noticing that she is being ignored and pushed aside, Fionel still tries to shout and call for the Duke, but receives no response. Selena, noticing that her plan worked, looks over Calcion's shoulder and once again mocks her rival, which enrages Fionel even more as she is escorted out of the garden shouting. Alone, Selena tells the Duke that she received a death threat and repeats Fionel's words, saying that she told Selena that she should stay in her place. Calcion asks what exactly Fionel said, and Selena explains that according to her, weak and insignificant people die when they get too close to the Duke. He asks if Selena thought Fionel would kill her right there, and Selena admits that from the way she spoke, yes, that is exactly what it seemed, but that she hesitated when she realized Selena was stronger than she expected. The Duke tries to analyze the situation, asking if their strength is really that different, and Selena explains that they grew up in completely different environments. Selena points out that by height and strength, she is a few centimeters taller than Fionel, and that this should count for something. Calcion comments that, to him, both seem too small to make any difference, which leaves her indignant. Well, that was quite humiliating for her to hear something like that. Although still irritated, Selena tries to organize her thoughts and says that if Fionel is the killer, she probably would not do the job alone. She says that, in a position like that, Fionel would send others to do the work, and this leaves Calcion thoughtful. Selena admits that she really felt afraid, and that she had no idea who could be hiding in the garden while she was lost. Calcion praises her, saying that she did a good job, but says nothing to try to calm Selena's fears. She hears the praise and looks at him in silence. Selena then asks if that is all he is going to say after she almost died just now. Calcion asks what exactly she expected to hear, and Selena lets out a frustrated murmur, giving up on explaining. To make up for almost dying, she demands that he pay her very well in the future, and Calcion replies that he already knows that. Selena decides to go rest and turns around, but before leaving the room, she stops in the middle of the way as if remembering something, which intrigues Calcion. She mentions that since she made such a scene earlier while trembling in his arms, it would be strange for them to sleep separately now. Calcion agrees with what she said, but upon seeing Selena's face, he notices that she is sweating coldly as she says that now they will have to sleep together so as not to raise suspicion. Now it is Calcion's turn to be surprised by Selena's statement, and now he is left speechless by this decision. Haha! It seems like the two of them have dug a hole they will not be able to get out of anytime soon. The atmosphere between Selena and Calcion becomes tense because of the statement that they will need to sleep together. However, unintentionally or not, the servants save the couple from the awkward situation when they take them to get ready for bed. Selena tries to understand her situation while the maids bathe her. Only one thought crosses her mind. Why is all this preparation just for sleeping? However, everything changes when she sees the pajamas that the maids prepared for her, and suddenly, Selena says that she does not want to wear that. The maids insist that that is the best outfit in Renbird to capture the Duke's heart, as if the goal of that night were a wedding night. Selena refuses immediately, completely indignant, saying that she just wants normal pajamas, something that lets her sleep without looking like she has ulterior motives. But the maids do not take no for an answer so easily, stating that they worked hard to make that outfit and that she should wear it with pride. They begin to argue among themselves, praising Selena, saying that she is very beautiful and that the pajamas they made would fit her body perfectly. Selena starts to feel a slight headache from the maids as they continue their heated discussion about how Selena could win the Duke's heart by wearing that outfit. I think after the maid acted so coldly toward her, Selena was expecting everyone to be rude to her, and now she was taken by surprise. Selena tries to remove any wrong idea from their minds and says that she only intends to go to sleep. However, her statement only fuels the maids' thoughts even more, and they believe that this is just her way of indirectly saying that she is going to do more than just sleep with the Duke. Selena is startled by how these women twist everything. However, she thinks it is better to accept these comments than to sleep alone and risk Fionel trying to attack her during the night. Selena asks them why everyone is making such a fuss about it, since this is probably not the first time the Duke has gone to sleep with someone in the same bed. However, one of the maids asks if she really believes that the Duke has ever slept with someone before. Wait a moment, does that mean the Duke has never had this kind of relationship? I am shocked. Shocked, Selena asks if that is really true, because the Duke is a very handsome man not to have any concubine or anything like that. The maid replies that not all nobles do that kind of thing, and that besides that, the Duke has a very cold personality, and that he usually does not show interest in women. And because of that, all the palace servants were surprised to see him bring someone he finally seems interested in, and that this is a unique moment they cannot miss. Furthermore, Selena's presence is the perfect opportunity for the Renbird family to finally have an heir. And because of that, all the maids are doing everything they can to make the relationship between the two of them happen. Selena hears all of this and continues to deny this supposed help to seduce the Duke. Honestly, these women are really getting carried away with their assumptions. Finally, after a lot of arguing and rejected requests, Selena is wearing a more acceptable and much less revealing nightgown than the previous one. Selena enters the room apologizing to Calcion for the delay, and comments on how it seems that everyone has strange thoughts and that she had to argue a lot just to wear normal clothes. However, she is startled by something and asks what all of that is that Calcion is doing. She enters the room and sees Calcion lying on a bed covered in petals, holding a glass of wine and with a rose in his mouth. And finally, we get the first glimpse of the Don Juan of this series, and it took a long time to appear. Ha ha ha. Calcion quickly explains that he is only like that because of the pressure from the servants who said he had to do this to be polite to his guest, but that he just wants to sleep in peace. Selena, as calmly as possible, says that she also just wants to sleep, and asks if Calcion knows what sleeping means. Indignant, Calcion promptly replies that of course he knows what sleeping means. Selena says that she asked that to know if Calcion was not taking into account all the madness that the servants were trying to make happen, and it seems that Selena is not willing to leave any room for anyone to imagine anything improper for that night. Calcion simply tells her to lie down and sleep already, because the day was tiring. While Selena lies down, Calcion puts out the candle and leaves the room in darkness, and the two lie there lost in their own thoughts. Selena cannot stay quiet and asks how he prefers to sleep, facing left or right, and he replies that it does not matter, that she can choose. Selena informs that she has the habit of rolling to the left while sleeping, so she decides to stay on that side of the bed. The Duke simply says, sleep, as if that were the most natural military order in the world, and she decides to accept that it is what it is. She asks if she can take another pillow, and he immediately allows it. Selena comments that she is used to sleeping while hugging something, and that an extra pillow would help, even if just to calm her nerves. Calcion simply says that she did not seem to have that problem when she slept in the office earlier. A bit embarrassed, Selena says that because of her work, she could fall asleep anywhere she rested her head. Uninterested, Calcion tells her to go to sleep already. Selena replies that she cannot sleep now because she is too nervous to sleep. Without thinking much, Calcion asks why she is uncomfortable when this room is the safest place to sleep, since she is beside the strongest northern duke in the world. What humility he has, you can practically smell the humility from here. Selena jokes that he is being very humble. Calcion simply replies that he only said the truth. She then says that she is thinking about how being in that room is making her more nervous than filming her first movie. Calcion asks why she is like that, and Selena replies that this is the first time she has shared a bed with a man. He then asks if it is true that this really is her first time sleeping with a man. Selena asks why he is asking her that only now, and says that he is acting like a playboy. Indignant, Calcion gets up and asks what she means by that, and she replies that it is nothing for him to worry about. He apologizes, saying that he said that but did not mean to be rude to her. Selena replies that it is fine and that he does not need to worry about anything, and says that this really is her first time sharing a bed with a man. Still apologizing, Calcion says that regardless of whether it is true or not, he was still rude to her, and says that people usually misunderstand him because of the way he speaks. Calcion continues apologizing, and Selena replies that she feels touched to receive those apologies from him. Selena then asks if she seemed like a woman who would sleep with just anyone. He then says that she does not seem like that type of person, and that is why he is apologizing so much. Surprising her, Calcion says that she acts so well, and that is why he never knows at what moment she is acting or not. And because of that, he feels captivated by her at various moments. That is so sweet of him opening up like that to her. I am touched here. Selena looks at him with a sincere smile on her face and says nothing at that moment. She stretches while asking if Calcion really thinks all of that about her, while she invites him to lie down on the bed to sleep and says that she feels good with so many compliments. Selena then says that she will do her best to play her role as an actress, and tells Calcion not to fall in love with her character. Calcion looks at her with a sincere smile and says that he will not fall in love with her at all. I think we can all agree that he is already in love with her, right? He then lies down and turns his back to her. After a brief moment, Selena seems to want to say something, but holds back. Calcion tells her to stop that and just say what she wants. Selena thinks for a moment and says that she just wanted to say goodnight to him. Calcion returns the goodnight and finally closes his eyes to sleep. The next morning, Selena begins to wake up. However, when she opens her eyes, she has a surprise that leaves her speechless. Selena notices that during the night, somehow, she and Calcion ended up embracing each other like a couple in love. Well, I did not expect things to unfold like that. I am shocked here. Selena wakes up startled upon realizing that she is completely entangled in the Duke's arms. Her heart beating so fast it seems to echo in the room. She tries to understand how she moved away from the pillow and ended up sleeping in his arms, while feeling the warmth of his body much closer than it should be. For a second, Selena admits that his arms are firm and give off a strange sense of safety, but she quickly panics about what that means. She tries to move away carefully, determined to get out of there before he wakes up and notices the embarrassing situation. However, when she starts to move, Selena realizes that his eyes are already open, watching everything in silence. The embarrassment explodes instantly and she pulls away too quickly, almost falling off the bed. Calcion comments casually that he already knew she was awake, and reminds her that she herself said she should sleep on the left side. Selena complains that she had warned him, while he calmly replies that he will remember that next time, as if he were noting down some rule. After they leave the room and get dressed, a servant appears informing them that Lady Rosalind will arrive at the castle soon. Selena immediately asks who this new visitor is and whether she represents a bigger problem than Fionel. Calcion explains that Rosalind is not impulsive like Fionel, and that because of that, Selena will need to completely change her strategy. She becomes even more tense upon learning that the Duke personally went to the castle gate to receive Rosalind. Selena tries to hide her discomfort but realizes that this means this new noblewoman is not someone ordinary. When they arrive at the reception area, Selena notices that even Fionel has shown up, also wanting to take part in welcoming the new visitor. However, Fionel does not miss the opportunity and already starts trying to charm the Duke, who clearly does not seem pleased with her presence, and of course that does not go unnoticed by Selena. Poor Fionel tries, but I do not think she realizes that she is being ignored by the Duke every single time. The arrival of Lady Rosalind is announced, and Selena immediately feels the atmosphere change. Rosalind introduces herself with extreme elegance, apologizing for coming without notice, claiming that her heart was too hurried to wait. Halcyon responds with a rare cordiality, which makes Selena even more alert to the level of that opponent. Fionel tries to provoke, insinuating that Rosalind only showed up because she heard that she was about to leave. Rosalind does not let the noblewoman's comment go unnoticed, and gives a frightening half-smile. She then calls Fionel and uses sharp words to return the blow, insinuating that Fionel often misses important events without giving explanations. The tension rises when Rosalind comments that even Lady Helen was surprised by Fionel's absence at a recent tea. I think we have found someone who is just as sharp as our protagonist. I foresee great scenes between these two. Selena watches in silence, realizing that this is not a common argument, but a true social duel full of calculated insinuations. And since Selena is not foolish at all, she notices that this is a great moment to understand more about the interactions among the nobles in this world, and observes everything carefully. Fionel tries to pretend disinterest in Rosalind's comment and asks if the noblewoman came there just because she was worried about her. Rosalind is not shaken and continues her elegant attacks, saying that she does not like Fionel at all and that she only came there to offer the capital's condolences to her. The tension between the two noblewomen is so intense that it becomes palpable in the air for anyone. Rosalind continues attacking elegantly, saying that people can do several things at once, but that some end up ruining everything. Fionel reacts with irritation, while Selena understands exactly why Halcyon said that this woman would require a different strategy. When Rosalind asks for permission to enter the castle, she completely ignores Selena's presence, as if she did not exist. Selena feels her blood boil, but controls herself and decides that she cannot remain invisible in that situation. Not wanting to lose her place, Selena clings to Halcyon's arm while ignoring Rosalind and asks if they are going to have breakfast now. Rosalind notices Selena's move and stares at her coldly without saying anything. Then, pretending she made a mistake by not noticing Selena there, she asks Halcyon directly who the young woman accompanying him is. Halcyon simply replies that she is someone he saved. Selena hears all of this and thinks about how bold Rosalind is to ask who she is to Halcyon, and also how he is not helping much. I want to know if he is doing this out of some caution because of the new noblewoman, or if it is just him being socially clueless as always. Selena then introduces herself directly, saying her name and looking at Rosalind without lowering her gaze. Rosalind responds with cold politeness and asks which family Selena comes from, making it clear that she is assessing her social position. Selena replies that the person is more important than the family, which makes the atmosphere heavy for a moment. The conversation takes an uncomfortable turn when Rosalind mentions the Duke's past and reminds that he has already rejected marriages for considering them merely useful. Selena feels the impact even more when Rosalind compares marriage to a hunting dog and insinuates that Selena would be just something to be used. Without losing her composure, Selena replies that if it were a beautiful dog, it would not make sense to train it to hunt. Well done, Selena. Do not let her get the upper hand on you. Rosalind smiles, clearly interested, as if that response had awakened even more of her curiosity. Then unexpectedly, Rosalind asks that breakfast be taken only with Selena, excluding the Duke from the conversation. Selena immediately understands that this is a direct challenge, an open provocation without intermediaries. Halcyon agrees to withdraw, making it clear that he does not intend to interfere. Meanwhile, Fionel tries to call the Duke to have breakfast with her, but she is ignored by him as he leaves in a hurry. When the Duke walks away, Selena feels a mix of frustration and tension, since she expected to finally talk to him. Fionel, noticing that she has been pushed aside by both the Duke and the two women, leaves stomping her feet, while Selena laughs at her. Now alone with Rosalind, Selena realizes that the real confrontation is about to begin. The silence between them does not last long, and Selena prepares herself mentally for a verbal attack. But Rosalind surprises her by acting in a completely unexpected way. With a quick and precise movement, she kicks Selena, knocking her to the ground before she can react. Good heavens, I did not expect to see such an attack out of nowhere. Selena feels the pain rise and looks at Rosalind in shock, trying to understand what just happened. Rosalind looks down at her with complete coldness and asks only a short and direct question. How much does Selena want? Rosalind gets straight to the point and offers money for Selena to stay away from the Duke while intimidating her, as if that were the simplest thing in the world. Selena is incredulous at the proposal and questions if that is how Rosalind intends to resolve things, making it clear that she is not there for money. Rosalind lifts Selena's chin and replies that, for a commoner, any imaginable amount would still be just spare change for her. With absolute arrogance, Rosalind asks how much Selena wants, as if she were buying a disposable object. What arrogance from this woman! How can she think she can simply buy anyone? Selena feels her anger rise as she realizes the contempt in those words, but decides to play along instead of backing down. She agrees to negotiate and throws the question back, asking how much Rosalind is willing to pay. Rosalind gets irritated and cannot understand this sudden turn. Selena continues mocking her and says that since Rosalind was raised without worries, she must not know how to behave in a negotiation. Selena then makes her demand coldly, saying that she will accept the proposal if Rosalind can pay 100 dresses like the one she is wearing. Surprisingly, Rosalind accepts the proposal without hesitation. Selena is surprised by how quickly the noblewoman accepted her price. Noticing that her plan did not work as expected, she thinks that this is going against her plan to return to her world. I think Selena got completely tangled up trying to trick her new rival. Rosalind continues and says that she will give Selena anything she wants. Whether it is dresses, jewelry, or money, no matter how much, everything is within her reach. Selena tries to return to a disinterested role and says that if Rosalind wants to pay so much, then she should start asking for more things. With visible anger, Lady Rosalind says that Selena is just a pet. But in truth, she is a dirty and unscrupulous merchant and asks what she wants besides the dresses. Selena calmly replies that like any human being, greed has no end, and that what she wants now is something far too difficult to obtain. Impatient, Rosalind demands that Selena say what she wants. Selena looks at Rosalind without breaking eye contact and declares that she wants the Duke's heart. Rosalind reacts as if she heard a bad joke and asks if Selena is serious. Selena confirms that this is exactly what she wants, stating that Rosalind herself proposed that game. Irritated, Rosalind asks who Selena thinks she is to dare to ask for something like that. She reminds that being the Duchess of Renbird means being willing to give one's own life and reinforces that another woman has already died for that. Rosalind then threatens Selena directly, saying that if she wants to stay alive, the best thing is to leave. She definitely checks all the boxes to be the murderer of the Duke's former fiancé, greedy, threatens her rivals out of nowhere, and is very rich and powerful. Could it be that the real killer has appeared now? Selena realizes that Rosalind is also talking about Aurel, the murdered fiancé, and understands the real weight of that threat. She analyzes the situation carefully and realizes that Rosalind is not impulsive like Fionel, but someone who believes she is completely safe. Selena concludes that this sense of security can only come from two possibilities. Either Rosalind is powerful enough to protect herself, or she herself is the killer. Either way, Selena understands that Rosalind is also a dangerous suspect. Without being intimidated, Selena thanks her for the warning, but states that she does not need either her advice or her money. She reinforces that what she wants remains the Duke's heart, and that Rosalind is the one being greedy in that conversation. Selena says that Rosalind can keep the money and power because she wants none of that, and that only the Duke's heart interests her. Rosalind then says that she does not need Calcion's small fortune and much less the status of marrying him. Confused, Selena asks if those are not exactly the things that Selena is seeking. Rosalind replies that she can obtain all of that whenever she wants, and even something greater if she truly desired it. Selena does not understand that logic and begins to wonder what Rosalind really wants. Selena realizes that unlike Fionel, Rosalind does not want to win the Duke's heart, but even so insists on marrying him. Before leaving, Rosalind turns and warns Selena once again that she is walking toward her own death if she continues like that. Rosalind walks away, leaving Selena alone, completely confused by everything she just heard. Time passes quickly, and soon it is time for dinner. An excessively abundant table is prepared, with more food and wine than necessary for just 4 people. Selena realizes that the banquet is not a courtesy, but part of Renbird's reception ritual. Even with the peaceful appearance, she feels that the tension between everyone is far from over. Sitting at the table, Selena tries to remember the rules of etiquette, but cannot recall anything specific. Deciding that she already seemed out of place anyway, she simply picks up the food with her hand and begins eating without ceremony. Fionel watches the scene in shock and glances sideways at Rosalind. Rosalind then comments that she has never seen anyone eat like that. She mocks her, asking if that is how wild animals feed in the north. Selena notices the attack from the young woman and thinks about how the world of these nobles is as dangerous as living in the forest with wild beasts. Fionel watches everything while beginning to compare the two women to animals. Selena is a black panther, implying that she is nothing more than a mannerless animal. Fionel compares Rosalind to a wolf, and finally compares herself to a little pet dog. Alright, that one was actually funny. I do not know if Fionel has low self-esteem or if she realized that the other two are on a much higher level than her. Fionel tries to humiliate Selena, saying that even her pet has better table manners. The atmosphere grows heavy when Fionel says that seeing Selena eat like that makes her want to vomit. She questions what cutlery is for if Selena does not use it, and suggests that she should eat crumbs in the street. At that moment, Rosalind intervenes, asking for more understanding and saying that the north is a place full of wild nature. She tries to present herself as the most elegant noble at the table, suggesting that all of that should be seen as a new and exotic experience for the two of them as they watch Selena dining. Selena realizes that Rosalind is trying to position herself as the most reasonable noble at the table by using Fionel as a stepping stone for her remarks. Noticing that she cannot lower her guard against the attacks of the two noblewomen and that the only option is to attack the civility they are used to, Selena does not back down, and while picking up one of the knives on the table, she says that Rosalind clearly understands nothing about wild animals. She states that if she were one of them, she would never eat crumbs thrown on the road. She drives the knife into a piece of meat, startling Rosalind with that unexpected action. Selena then looks at Rosalind with a dangerous smile and coldly concludes that if she were an animal, she would prefer to bite Lady Rosalind's neck. That was delicious. Selena really scared those arrogant noblewomen.
Bye.
The tension still hangs in the air as Selena continues her veiled threat to Rosalind when she says that she loves the taste of meat. Fionel is also startled by Selena's display. However, Selena tells her that she does not need to worry because she would never eat someone like Fionel. She mocks the fear on Fionel's face and compares her to a small chihuahua, telling her to stay out of the conversation. Honestly, poor Fionel is really being pushed aside in this fight for the Duke's heart. Fionel, humiliated, withdraws while Rosalind pretends she was not shaken by Selena and continues saying that she is no different from a mere beast. Rosalind comments that when someone behaves like an animal, they end up seeing the world the same way, casting a provocative look at Selena. Selena responds with sarcasm, saying that maybe that is the reason the Duke decided to take Selena with him. She continues provoking even more, saying that maybe Rosalind should try acting like an animal too. Perhaps then she would get some attention from the Duke. The tension between the two rises so much at that moment that it feels like sparks are about to fly as they stare at each other. Rosalind maintains her composure, stating that wanting to act like an animal like Selena would be far too low for someone of her position. She reinforces that she is not a commoner and places herself above the situation, with the rigid posture of someone who considers herself untouchable. Selena observes Rosalind's words and realizes that her rival will not want to engage in a direct exchange of insults. At that moment, a heavier voice enters the conversation, bringing up the past involving Rosalind's family, the Tyolan family. And Calcion, with all his powerful and noble posture, finally intervenes in the discussion between the two women. He comments on how, in the past, the Renbird family was deeply offended when they attempted a marriage alliance with the Tyolan family, and that the response was humiliation, calling the Renbirds inferior to them. Rosalind apologizes, admitting that that attempt was a mistake caused by her father's greed, and that she had no influence at the time because she was younger. Wait a moment, does that mean Calcion was almost engaged to Rosalind, but he was rejected? And now the tables have turned for Rosalind? This is wonderful. Selena realizes the irony of the situation, remembering that before they were rejected, and now Rosalind is practically begging for a marriage. Even after hearing the apologies, Calcion states that, looking at it now, perhaps it was better that things happened that way. He then takes a stance, saying that unfortunately he truly does not fit into Rosalind's class. He explains that, coming from the north, he prefers to sleep on the ground surrounded by nature and wild animals. Selena immediately understands the response as an elegant counterattack, using Rosalind's own words against her. She notices that, when he wants to, Calcion seems to know very well how to handle all these details involving noble intrigues. Rosalind tries to apologize for her previous comment, but Selena cuts her off, saying that she always knew that she and the Duke were a perfect match. Selena joins in and agrees with exaggerated enthusiasm, saying that she also loves comfort, nature, and animals. The atmosphere changes completely, as if Selena and the Duke were on the same side, leaving Rosalind isolated. Calcion continues speaking and comments that, despite everything, Renbird's level is still relatively low for Rosalind. The Duke directly asks what Rosalind's true intentions are there. She replies that she would never dare to criticize his class, and states that that was not the main reason for her visit. Calcion still does not believe her and says that he cannot believe that she has another reason for coming there. Rosalind explains that she came to see him, yes, but that her official mission was to deliver condolences on behalf of the nobility of the capital. Then she presents a huge stack of letters, saying that all of them are from people who miss the Duke in the capital. That many letters are very suspicious. It seems to me that these nobles always have ulterior motives. With a smile on her face, Rosalind asks Calcion if he is going to respond to all the letters from the nobles who are concerned about his situation. Selena immediately sees the move. Rosalind brought exactly what Calcion hates most: forced contact with the capital. She compares the situation to an attack of herbivorous animals, something that not even the king of the jungle could endure. Selena admits, frustrated, that they almost won, but Rosalind had a final card. Time passes, and later Calcion appears exhausted, surrounded by letters he has not yet managed to finish reading. He thinks about how he spent hours reading and did not even reach halfway, and even so, his eyes are completely tired. Suddenly, noise from outside draws attention, with excited voices and suspicious giggles. Selena opens the door while the maids tell her to cheer the Duke up and then leave, leaving her alone. Poor Selena, she does not have a moment of peace with the palace staff, does she? Entering the room, she apologizes to him for the noise from the maids so late at night. Calcion starts to ask what was happening, but falls silent when he looks at Selena. Embarrassed, Selena apologizes and comments that it might have been too much, while explaining that the maids would not leave her alone. Calcion replies that he understands, since even he was scolded by the servants, and asks her not to worry. He tells her to sit down, stating that he does not mind it, and Selena agrees, while thinking that maybe she is not the only one embarrassed by the situation. Determined to act normally, Selena approaches to tell him what happened earlier that day. However, as she sits, she glances sideways at Calcion and notices something. Calcion said he did not mind her clothing, however the atmosphere became strangely silent between the two of them. She notices his face lightly flushing, and surprised, cannot help but ask, if he does not mind, why is he blushing? Look at the Duke getting enchanted by Selena. Is a kiss coming now? Selena notices the strange atmosphere in the room when the Duke looks away, clearly uncomfortable, while trying to pretend that nothing happened. She cannot help but wonder how Calcion manages to be so awkward, and decides to change the subject. Selena tries to change the subject, and asks what made him react directly against Rosalind today. She compares his attitude toward Fionel, where he did not bother to respond or push the noblewoman away, and says that with Rosalind he handled himself very well. Calcion replies that Rosalind is easier to deal with, and that there is a clear reason to act that way with her. It is curious how every interaction involving the nobility is never easy to handle, isn't it? Selena immediately connects this to the past rejection of the marriage proposal involving the Tiolan family, and decides to press further. Calcion confirms and explains that his mother was extremely ambitious, and wanted him to marry into the most powerful family in society. He says that although Renberg is far from the capital, it was still wealthy enough to attempt an alliance with the Tiolan. Selena is surprised to learn that the proposal was rejected because Renberg was considered inferior. Calcion admits that this is exactly what happened, drawing an incredulous reaction from her. She jokes that he has held a grudge until today just to get revenge, which makes him respond with irony about never forgetting the names of his enemies. Selena then provokes him, asking if he still has feelings for Rosalind. Calcion reacts immediately, firmly denying it with visible irritation. Selena points out the contradiction, reminding him that he himself called her powerful and beautiful, which increases the tension. He clarifies that that was his mother's view, not his, and defines Rosalind as someone suspicious and troublesome. Selena agrees and comments that Rosalind made direct threats that same morning. Curious, Calcion asks what exactly she said. Selena tells him that Rosalind offered money for her to stay away from him. Calcion asks how much, and Selena reveals that the amount would be equivalent to 100 dresses like the one she was wearing. She admits that she almost accepted, mainly because of the possibility of returning to her own world, but decided to refuse. Calcion remains completely silent for a few seconds, visibly shaken. He then reveals that that amount equals Renberg's budget for 20 years. If it were me, I would have run to accept that proposal. She could definitely return to her world with that much money. Selena falls into inner conflict again, wondering why she refused something so absurd. But she quickly reassures herself that she needs to return home and that money would not solve that. Selena reflects out loud, questioning whether being the Duchess of Renberg really holds enough value to justify that. He comments that not even the gold mines fully explain the interest of the Tiolan family. Selena remembers that Rosalind said she did not want money or power, which makes everything even stranger. Honestly, the only thing I can imagine is that Rosalind must truly love Calcion. It is the only explanation for her acting and speaking that way. She wonders out loud what Rosalind really wants. Jokingly, Selena suggests that maybe it is because of the Duke's appearance. Calcion dismisses the idea, and she pushes further, suggesting that maybe it is because of his body. To her surprise, Calcion admits that this is a possibility, making both of them laugh. The atmosphere finally becomes lighter, and Selena is surprised to realize that he can joke like that. The conversation is interrupted when Selena notices a letter different from the others. Calcion explains that is the only one that truly matters. Selena discovers that the letter came from the Crown Prince and is surprised to learn that she can read it thanks to the translator bracelet. Since the first time that bracelet appeared, I liked it. I want one on my desk tomorrow. Calcion explains that he cannot ignore the prince because he is ambitious, powerful, and the most likely next king. He reveals that for the prince, Renberg is too small for direct interference, but valuable enough to attract interest. Selena understands that any mistake could give the prince the perfect excuse to act against Renberg. Calcion comments that everyone has been invited to the grand banquet celebrating the 300th anniversary of the kingdom's foundation. He admits that he cannot refuse the invitation, no matter how much he wants to. Selena sees this as a perfect opportunity to investigate the high society of the capital, and suggests that they take advantage of the situation. However, she says that she is worried about going to the capital because the plan depends on his acting and she does not know if he is ready. The comment makes Calcion embarrassed and even causes him to choke on her honesty. Selena suddenly stands up, determined, and in a sudden move she sits on Calcion's lap, startling him. She announces that she wants to go to the capital with him and asks for it out loud in an exaggerated way. Calcion immediately agrees, which irritates Selena, who complains that he is only agreeing out of obligation. She demands that he say that he truly wants to take her with him, since no one else is around. Selena loses her patience and coldly says that he is terrible at acting, and that at this rate the plan will fail if he does not practice more. Calcion sits down on the sofa, melancholic, unable to respond to her at all. Selena sighs, realizing that he still panics far too easily. The conversation ends abruptly when Selena says goodbye and goes to sleep, leaving Calcion alone and confused. Alone, he wonders what he should do with that unpredictable woman. I know I have said this before, but I simply love how Selena manages to dominate every situation over Calcion. The next day, Selena receives an unexpected notice that Rosalind wants to have tea with her. Selena asks the maids if she can change her dress, saying that she cannot wear the same one as yesterday. The maid explains that there was no time to prepare another outfit. Without hesitation, Selena orders them to refuse Rosalind's invitation. The maid panics, explaining that one cannot refuse someone from a higher family. Selena replies that she cannot go without proper clothing and says that Rosalind herself said she would understand any situation. The maid hesitates and reveals that Rosalind stated that Selena could even go wearing a sack of potatoes and she would not mind. Indignant, Selena asks who is being rude in that situation. Realizing that the maid could be punished, Selena ends up giving in. She agrees to go only so that the maid does not get into trouble. At the tea location, Rosalind is startled to see Selena appear dressed in a completely unexpected way. Selena walks calmly and comments that this is still better than a sack of potatoes. And once again, Selena delivers everything with the Wrenbird family looks, simply stunning at every opportunity. And so, another round of the dangerous game between the two begins. Selena arrives at the tea with no intention of justifying herself, making it clear from the very first second that she did exactly what Rosalind said she could do. She calmly comments that it is still better than a sack of potatoes, observing the irritated glint in the noblewoman's eyes in front of her. Rosalind replies that even so, that goes beyond any acceptable limit, trying to maintain the posture of someone in control of the situation by saying that Selena should have come wearing the previous day's dress. Selena simply shrugs and says that she had nothing else to wear, reminding her that she was allowed to wear whatever she wanted. Rosalind completely ignores the part about the sack of potatoes and shifts the focus, clenching her teeth as she remembers that the previous dress was torn by the Duke the night before. She definitely knows how to destabilize that petty noblewoman. Selena notices the anger on Rosalind's face and makes it clear that she does not care what she thinks. Rosalind accuses Selena of lying in a dirty and ill-intentioned way, saying that she does not tolerate that kind of behavior. Selena replies that inviting someone to tea saying that she can come wearing a sack of potatoes is not exactly a very elegant gesture. She explains that she simply played at the same level Rosalind chose, hoping that it would be enough. And once again, Selena throws her hypocrisy right back at her face. Rosalind states that she only wanted respect and that she would not have made a scene if she had been treated with consideration. Selena crosses her arms and says that she should have imagined that Rosalind would not understand her intentions. Rosalind turns the tables and says that Selena should think first about what others might think before acting. With a tense smile, Rosalind says that she thought Selena was smarter but realized that she did not know her well. She then strikes where it hurts, commenting that now she understands Selena's financial situation and that next time she will be more careful. Rosalind thinks to herself how poor someone must be not to be able to buy a new dress. That is an absurd level of prejudice towards someone she just met, my goodness. Selena replies coldly, saying that Rosalind should better inform herself about the woman the Duke personally chose to bring. She makes it clear that she is the one by Calcion's side now and that this will not change anytime soon. Rosalind tries to downplay the situation, reminding her that she is an aristocrat and that Selena is still just a commoner. Selena smiles and says that, unfortunately for Rosalind, they will still meet many times. Rosalind states that this is unlikely since she is about to leave and does not intend to return anytime soon to see Selena again. But she will be in for a surprise when she finds out about the trip of our favorite couple. Without missing a beat, Selena reveals that she will also be at the grand banquet in the capital and that the Duke himself will take her. Rosalind freezes for a moment upon hearing that and asks if Selena is really going with the Duke. Selena confirms enthusiastically, saying that he asked her to accompany him and she accepted immediately, even praising how kind he was. Rosalind shows disbelief and questions whether the Duke would really give up his own class to take someone like Selena. Selena laughs and provokes her, saying that he turns into a real monster when a woman sits on his lap, something Rosalind would never know. And once again, she is playing very low with a woman who also plays low with her. Anger explodes across Rosalind's face, and she stands up furious, unable to accept that provocation. Before the situation escalates further, the Duke appears, calling Selena by name. Rosalind quickly turns, pretending composure, while Selena realizes that the timing was perfect. Selena understands that she needs to act fast and begins to cry convincingly, clinging to the Duke as if she were in shock. Calcion immediately holds Selena, protecting her without hesitation, while Rosalind watches the scene with contained hatred. Selena smiles inwardly upon realizing that the plan of sending a letter to Calcion before the tea worked exactly as expected, and it seems Calcion is starting to act better, isn't he? Calcion looks at Rosalind coldly and makes it clear that this is not her territory. Rosalind takes a deep breath and replies that she knows that. Calcion thinks to himself that he was only able to intervene because Selena warned him beforehand. He also considers the possibility of something worse happening if Selena had not had that chance. The Duke's gaze darkens as he realizes the seriousness of what could have happened. Selena takes advantage of the moment and intensifies her performance, trembling and saying that she is cold and wants to go back inside. And she always finishes perfectly every single time. Experience really does count. She asks in a weak voice for him to carry her, reinforcing the image of fragility in front of everyone. Without arguing, Calcion picks her up in his arms and declares that the meeting is over, dismissing everyone present. As soon as they move away, Selena bursts into internal celebration and of course does not miss the chance to irritate one more rival. Rosalind notices the whole setup, and upon seeing everything that happened, her face takes on a sinister expression. Alone with him, Selena praises every detail of his reaction, saying that it was perfect from beginning to end. She highlights that he came immediately, made his disdain for Rosalind clear and still carried her all the way there. Calcion asks her to stop, visibly embarrassed, but also says that they should start organizing the next step. He informs her that a tailor is already on the way to make a new dress, since she cannot walk around like that. Selena is surprised by the speed but accepts the idea with enthusiasm. Before that, Calcion warns that situations like that will continue to happen. He explains that to truly protect herself, Selena will need to deal with different types of people. I can only think that we are going to see more and more conflicts within the nobility from now on. Calcion acknowledges that she is a great actress, but warns that acting will not always be enough. For that reason, he says that he decided to give her a new weapon. Selena asks what it is, curious. Calcion replies with a restrained smile, knowledge. He explains that there are about 20 days left before the trip, and that until then she will learn etiquette, social skills, and the basics of noble literacy. All of this so that Selena stops merely pretending and actually becomes an aristocrat. And finally, we are going to see Selena's power up. I am already remembering shonen training arcs. Selena finds it strange when Calcion talks about turning her into a true aristocrat, since the original plan was always the exact opposite. She questions the sudden change, but the Duke explains that the plan has not changed, it only needs adjustments. Calcion says that for her to move within the social world of the capital, it is important to at least know how those people speak and behave. Selena agrees that without that, she would not even be included in conversations, much less taken seriously. He reinforces that he does not want to force her to become someone different, only to ensure that she has the tools not to be looked down upon. That is actually quite sweet of him worrying about her being part of conversations. Wait, is he doing this only for the plan, or am I being fooled? Selena laughs and provokes him, asking if he is worried about his own reputation. Calcion immediately replies that Renbird is more powerful than it seems, and that this is not what bothers him. After a brief silence, he admits that he simply does not want people to look down on Selena. I think I am right to believe that he is worried about her and not just about the plan. Selena is surprised by his sincerity, and realizes that he thinks it is normal to be the only one to pick on her, but she thinks that in reality this is just so he can ignore her in those situations. She asks if he has already learned how to communicate within high society. Calcion replies that he has never needed that, which makes Selena's eyes light up. Excited, she suggests that the two of them learn together, turning it into something less heavy. Look at her trying to drag him along with her for no reason. Calcion immediately refuses, but Selena insists, reminding him that things are now different and more dangerous. She points out that he is about to throw himself directly into the middle of his enemies, and that knowledge is also a weapon. Even while grumbling, Calcion ends up agreeing that learning together might be useful. Noticing his complete lack of enthusiasm, Selena proposes making it more fun. She suggests a bet, which immediately makes Calcion suspicious that she wants to duel him to the death. And once again he takes everything to the most violent possible side. Selena clarifies that it is nothing violent, just something motivating like gold stars given as rewards for good performance in school. Calcion does not understand the comparison with gold stars, and Selena jokes by asking if he was a troublemaker as a child. Offended, he replies that he is the son of the Duke of Renbird. Selena simply ignores his anger and says that she never saw him when he was younger and therefore could not believe that. She then finally proposes the bet. Whoever wins gets a wish from the other. Confident, Calcion accepts, saying that it will be far too easy for him. Selena warns that she learns quickly and that maybe he should be worried. What will their requests be, I wonder? Will we see a marriage proposal? Calcion retorts by reminding her that she arrived in that world only a few days ago, while he has dealt with nobles for decades. Even so, Selena reinforces that they will learn together no matter what. Exhausted, she asks for a break until the tailor arrives, imagining that he would only come later. Calcion replies that he ordered him to come immediately and that when he asks for something quickly, it is usually done. Shortly after, the tailor appears completely out of breath, proving that the order was taken very seriously. The poor man had to come running faster than the wind. Selena feels sorry when she sees his state, while Calcion simply authorizes the work to begin. The tailor starts taking measurements with great excitement, praising Calcion's body. Calcion gets irritated when he sees the tailor trying to take measurements as if he were going to make a suit. He grabs the tailor by the head while asking if he did not hear that he was called to make dresses and not suits. The man justifies himself by saying that genderless style is trending, which makes Calcion want to kill him right there. What kind of reaction was that? That is pure exaggeration. Selena quickly intervenes, asking Calcion to calm down and letting the tailor continue because he is just excited to work for the Duke. She reminds him that she cannot keep walking around dressed like that forever, no matter how chaotic everything is. The tailor asks her to change clothes to continue the measurements, but he is so nervous that he whispers everything to Selena, who laughs at him and tells him to relax. While Selena's measurements are being taken, Calcion remains in the room, observing everything in a not-so-subtle way. Selena notices his fixed gaze and begins to get irritated, asking if he should not return to his office. Calcion refuses, saying that she clearly needs his help to choose dresses. Jealous is an understatement when it comes to Calcion. She thinks about what exactly the Duke understands about fashion, but the tailor interrupts saying that he has finished the measurements. Full of confidence, the tailor promises to make Selena the most beautiful woman in Renbird. Selena casually comments that the Duke always says she looks beautiful in anything. Calcion whispers in denial immediately, saying that he never said that, and Selena says she is doing that as revenge for his last scene during the measurements. With a lighter atmosphere, Selena says that she wants to look at the designs Devon has to show her, and says that she wants something that is trending in the capital. Surprised, Devon says that Selena is really up to date with society's trends. The conversation continues more lightly as they choose the designs. Selena is delighted with some models and asks what the Duke thinks of them, and Calcion promptly agrees. Devon then says that if she liked those models, they could make the same design in 5 different colors. Surprised, she says that it would not be so good to always wear the same model, just changing the colors. Look, I am very minimalist. Would wearing the same shirt model in different colors fall into Selena's situation? The tailor then says that this was a habit of the former Duchess, who always ordered the same dress in multiple colors. She asks if the former Duchess loved the same model so much that she wanted it in so many different colors. Devon then says that it was not exactly that, but rather that the Duchess always chose the color based on her mood and then had the other colors discarded. Indignant, Selena criticizes the waste and begins to think about an entire passionate speech about how that harms the world, but she keeps it to herself and says nothing to them. The tailor tries to adapt and suggests making one dress for each design, but Calcion asks if Devon thought the Wrenbirds were poor. Devon apologizes for the misunderstanding. Calcion then orders him to make 7 different colors, and Devon immediately agrees and starts suggesting different colors. Selena then interrupts the two and says that if they made all the colors for all the designs, it would look like everyone could have a variation. And Selena is being clever by wanting to follow exclusive fashion. She then tells him to make only one color for each design, and the idea is promptly accepted by the tailor. Calcion watches everything in silence until he intervenes, reminding them that extravagance is also part of being an aristocrat. Selena pauses, thinks for a moment, and tries to find a solution that does not harm Wrenbird or her own principles. Then, with a confident smile, she announces that she has the perfect idea to show that extravagance Calcion wants. Selena looks at Calcion when he talks about a new plan, trying to understand what exactly he means by that perfect idea. She thinks that maybe the proposal came too suddenly and that she does not even know if there are enough resources to make it a reality. Even so, Selena explains that a true aristocrat does not use mass-produced items, but something unique, made with intention. She asks the tailor to produce only one dress, but to put all possible heart and talent into it. Selena suggests creating a fabric that no one has ever seen before, something truly exclusive. She begins to explain her idea carefully, talking about grinding jewels, mixing them into the threads, and using gold and silver to engrave patterns. Did she really go that far with the idea of making something exclusive for herself? For a moment, Selena hesitates, thinking that maybe that is too impossible even for Wrenbird. The tailor remains silent for a few seconds and then bursts with excitement, calling Selena a genius. He states that only beautiful people know how to create beautiful things and assures that the idea is viable. Selena is shocked to realize that he can actually make it work. The tailor warns that it will require a lot of work and labor, and that the cost will be extremely high. Before he even finishes the sentence, Calcion interrupts and tells him to do whatever is necessary. Being that rich must be nice, not even hesitating at such an expense is impressive. Calcion says that Wrenbird will provide all the necessary jewels for the project without restrictions. Calcion then imposes an absurd deadline. In 20 days, the tailor must prepare at least 100 dresses. In addition, he demands that all of them be of different designs. Seriously, was it necessary to make such a huge request? Selena is shocked by the demand and begins to wonder if that is normal or if everyone in that place has completely lost their minds. Noticing the tailor's hesitation, Selena asks if he can really handle that. Before the man can back out, Calcion hands over a gleaming advance payment, eliminating any possible doubt. The tailor immediately accepts, completely motivated by the advance payment, and it seems greed spoke louder in that moment. Alone with her thoughts, Selena concludes that this is definitely not normal. A little later, Janet knocks on the door of Calcion's office and asks for permission to enter. Calcion asks how the lesson went, but thinks that Janet does not seem to have good news. He then gets ahead of himself and asks how bad the lesson was and whether she wants to continue teaching. The housekeeper explains that it was expected, since Selena has never had any contact with formal etiquette. Even so, she admits that Selena is a genius. Selena learns like a sponge, observing everything with incredible attention, even when the movements are complex. And I am not surprised at all to see Selena impressing yet another person in this new world. A few hours earlier, Selena finds it strange to be alone with the housekeeper and asks where Calcion is. She discovers that he will only participate after the basic training. Selena notices the cold gaze of the woman in front of her and understands that she is not exactly welcome there from her very first day in the palace. She then says that she did not expect Janet to be the one teaching her, and the housekeeper explains that she is there only by the Duke's orders. She explains that she accompanied numerous events alongside the former Duchess, and that she has enough experience to teach Selena. Janet makes it clear that Selena must not tarnish Wrenbird's reputation. Lost in her thoughts, Selena realizes that that woman probably expects her to fail and give up before embarrassing herself. I really like how Selena always understands what people think of her. It is good to see a protagonist who is not naive. Selena asks what will happen if she truly cannot learn everything, no matter how hard she tries. Janet says that she will do her best to teach her and avoid any embarrassment that could happen without proper training. Selena concludes that if it does not work, she will have to create an alternative plan. Determined, she remembers her experience as an actress and convinces herself that learning something new is part of that. When Janet begins to teach, Selena asks to see the movements only once. The housekeeper warns that this is impossible, and that not even nobles trained since childhood can memorize everything like that. Selena insists, saying that she does not want to waste time. Janet reluctantly agrees and warns that if Selena makes her waste time because of her antics, there will be serious consequences for both of them. Completely confident, Selena says that if she makes a mistake, she will accept any punishment. Janet cannot believe Selena's audacity and doubts that she can learn more than 50 movements by seeing them only once. Minutes later, Janet is shocked to see Selena execute more than 50 movements perfectly after a single demonstration. She observes Selena's posture, breathing, and gestures, unable to find any flaw. To Janet, Selena moves with an almost real elegance, as if she were born for it. When Selena asks how she did, the housekeeper can only respond with one word: perfect. And just as I said before, Selena surprises absolutely no one by being perfect in her performance. Despite the praise, Janet begins to seriously suspect Selena, certain that she cannot be just an ordinary commoner. Calcion reassures the housekeeper, explaining that Selena has always been exceptional in physical activities and that there is no secret identity or anything like that. Convinced, Janet states that it is possible to complete the training before the trip. Calcion then decides to join the lessons starting the next day, admitting that he himself has never formally learned etiquette. Later alone, Calcion watches Selena walking through the courtyard while being surrounded by several maids. He thinks that if Selena can learn etiquette as easily as she did today, then he will probably lose the bet. He begins to wonder what wish Selena will ask for when she wins. Well, my friend, it seems you made that bet already knowing how it would end. Meanwhile, Selena meets an excited maid who congratulates her on her sudden success. The woman says that everyone is talking about Selena, praising her beauty and saying that it was love at first sight for the Duke. Selena thanks her but notices something strange in that attitude. The maid clearly places herself on Selena's side, even without knowing her, risking being judged poorly by others. Trying to deceive the maid, Selena begins to pretend that she is honored that everyone likes her. Well, everyone except Janet. Curious, the maid asks why Lady Janet does not like her. Selena then says that Janet is always picking on her and constantly gives her threatening looks. The maid replies that Janet always behaves that way with all the maids, especially when it involves the honor of the Wrenbird family. It seems that Janet really cares a lot about the Wrenbird family. I really want to know what her past is with the former Duchess. The maid continues, saying that not even the former Duchess seemed to be enough for the housekeeper's standards. The harassment was so intense that Janet was even physically punished by the former Duchess. Surprised, Selena asks, in a playful tone, what Janet must have done to reach that point. Selena thinks it is very strange for someone to go that far just because of their superior. Continuing her game to get more answers, Selena asks if there is anyone in the palace who does not suffer because of Janet's behavior. The maid replies that there is only one person who is just as terrifying as Lady Janet, and that person is the Duke. In a joking tone, Selena asks if, by any chance, the Duke and Janet argue because of Calcion's attitudes. Speaking in secret, the maid says that everything would be better if the Duke simply dismissed Lady Janet. Selena takes another cup of tea while thinking that she should keep that maid close, since she would be an excellent source of information that she normally would not be able to obtain through Calcion. With her most charismatic demeanor, Selena asks the maid's name and says that they could become closer since they seem to be around the same age. She also comments that she will certainly look for her in the future. The maid introduces herself as Juna and says that anything Selena needs, she just has to ask. I really hope this Juna is not someone with bad intentions against Selena. I am really starting to like her. Taking advantage of Juna's goodwill, Selena decides to ask about a doubt she has had in the last few days. Juna says she can ask anything, and Selena replies that she hopes she will not think anything wrong, but there is something she really needs to know. Juna reassures her that there is no problem at all and that she can ask. Selena then says that both Fionel and Rosalind told her to be careful and not be greedy, otherwise she would die. She then asks who was the person who died recently, saying that she heard some comments about it and became curious. Upon hearing the question, Juna seems hesitant to answer, but thinks for a moment. Then she says she will tell, but that Selena must not comment about it with either the Duke or the housekeeper. Selena agrees immediately. The tone of the conversation changes when Juna reveals that, a month ago, Calcion was promised in marriage to a noblewoman, but that this noblewoman died in the capital. Selena pretends to be surprised and asks if Calcion was ever engaged. Juna replies that, in fact, he was only promised, and that it was an arranged marriage with no signs of feelings involved. See how kind Juna is with Selena, trying not to worry her about the former fiancé. Selena then asks if Juna got to know the former fiancé personally, and she replies that she served the deceased directly. Right after that, Selena asks if she was beautiful, and Juna replies that she was only average. Additionally, Juna comments that the former fiancé barely spoke and always had a depressive and gloomy air. Selena hears all of this and begins to compare it with what she has already heard about Erel. For Calcion, Erel seemed like a gentle and calm person. For others, like Juna, she was someone reserved and depressed. In Selena's mind, these two versions, although different, still carry some similarity. Selena then asks if Juna liked the former fiancé, and the maid replies that she did not like her very much. Selena asks why. Juna then says that the former fiancé betrayed the Duke with several men while she was staying in the capital. Damn, was Erel a fraud? Or is this just gossip to try to shake Calcion? Later, Selena is in the room with Calcion and he comments that she looks tired. She replies that he has no idea how tired she is and that he cannot even imagine what her day was like. He asks if Janet is being too harsh on her, and Selena replies that it could be different. She says that Janet tries to control everything she does, and that any mistake, no matter how small, is met with a disapproving look. Calcion asks if that is true, since for him Janet only praises Selena for how easily she learns in the lessons. Indignant, Selena doubts that and says that in front of her, the housekeeper always acts like a shrew. Now it is Calcion who doubts Selena, and she defends herself by saying that she is not exaggerating. She then asks if Janet has never been harsh with him, and Calcion replies that he has never had problems with her. Being honest, he never needed to learn etiquette. Selena continues complaining and says that, even without necessity, Janet demands perfection from the maids in every aspect. She really hates that woman. It is more than obvious. Still on that subject, Selena says that Janet never leaves anyone in peace, and comments that she heard that she acted like that, even with Calcion's mother. Surprised, Calcion asks if she is talking about his mother, and Selena confirms that she heard it from Juna. She mentions the episode in which Janet was slapped by the former Duchess because of her demands regarding etiquette. Calcion listens to everything and says that the housekeeper has always acted thinking of what was best for his mother, and that this is something expected of any housekeeper. Selena says that she understands his point of view, but that she sees the situation differently. Calcion asks what that perspective would be. Selena thinks for a moment and says that before explaining, he needs to remember that she is doing all of this to return to her world. Is she about to drop a bomb now? Selena continues and says that after the recent events she wants to review the terms of their agreement. She then asks if Calcion truly believes that Erel was murdered. Selena apologizes for bringing up the subject, but says she needs to understand this. For her, if their agreement were broken, it would only be a blow to his pride. But for her, it would literally be a matter of life or death. Calcion agrees and asks why she thinks Erel was not murdered. Selena says that there is a possibility that his enemies are not outside Renbird, but within the kingdom itself, closer than he imagines. Calcion then asks if she believes that Erel may have taken her own life because of the pressure from Janet and the other maids. Selena agrees and he asks her to continue. Selena thinks it is good to see that Calcion is listening seriously, but she also realizes that if Janet can be discarded for being useless, the same could happen to her in the future. Continuing her reasoning, Selena says that they need to make one thing very clear between them. She asks that if Erel did not take her own life by choice, but because she had no other option, would that still be considered murder? Now she has brought up a question that says a lot about how Calcion thinks and how he will act from now on. Calcion does not respond immediately. He remains silent, reflecting. Selena watches him and realizes how difficult that question is. For her, if he says it is not considered murder, then there would be no reason to investigate. But if he says yes, there is the possibility that he will seek revenge. And being who he is, that could easily turn into a war between noble houses. After thinking for a while, Calcion takes a firmer stance and says that he would indeed consider it murder. Selena hears this and says that in that case, they need to start thinking about suspects. For her, the main suspects are the people who have been intimidating her since the first day, trying to make her give up on becoming Duchess. Calcion suggests that Janet should be first on the list. Selena agrees and adds all the maids who are with Erel in the capital. She also mentions that Janet has already stated that if Selena does anything that could dishonor the Renbird family, she would not hesitate to act. In addition, there are all the rumors spread by the maids. Calcion says that to him, these situations do not seem that serious. Selena replies that for him, it may not seem so, but he does not have to live walking on eggshells like she and Erel do. Calcion does not understand. Selena then asks if someone's opinion could affect his title. He answers no. She asks if that would cause any impact on his life. Again, no. She continues and asks if anyone could threaten to expel him from the palace for being rude. And once more, no. Selena then concludes that the difference between him and them is simple. He has the power to ignore all of this. She and Erel do not. Calcion tries to argue that Erel did not come from a weak or poor family, so it would not make sense for her to feel that way. Selena replies that from Erel's point of view, she lived constantly in danger, as if walking on thin ice. She says that Erel lived in fear that any scandal, no matter how small, could be a reason for her expulsion from Renbird. With a more serious tone, Selena says that if Erel were expelled, it would destroy her family's reputation. She then asks if Calcion can imagine what was going through Erel's mind when thinking about living the rest of her life under that kind of pressure. Selena adds that when someone is rejected by everyone, despair can take over. My God, I even stopped breathing just now. What a heavy moment. Selena begins to remember her own career as an actress. To many, her career seemed promising, but in her daily life, she was always surrounded by gossip. She remembers when she was unfairly accused of problems in a project and how she barely managed to escape more serious consequences. She thinks about how, many times, she was blamed for things she never did, and how the repetition of that almost made her give up on everything. But unlike Erel, she always had people who supported her, and that made all the difference. She cannot guarantee that Erel had the same. Maybe, she had no one. Wow. Out of nowhere, the story got really heavy. I was not expecting that. Calcion listens to everything and asks if she truly believes that loneliness could have led Erel to take her own life. Selena replies that this is something they will never be able to say with certainty, but that there is a clear point. Someone made Erel believe that she had no future in Renbird. Calcion says that this should not be a problem, since the marriage agreement was clear.
Wow.
The Renbird family would provide financial support to Baron Zeon, Erel's father, and in return she would marry Calcion without interfering in his politics. Selena then asks what would happen if a situation arose in which her presence was necessary. She remembers what Juna said about Erel being involved with other men in the capital. Selena then asks Calcion what would happen if Erel were someone who simply did not care about who she was flirting with at certain moments. Calcion listens to Selena's question, thinks for a moment, and says that if Erel really did something like that, it would not be a problem for him, since it is something that all nobility ends up doing at some point. He then says that for the Duchess of Renbird, that would not be a reason to tarnish her reputation in that way. Selena finds that logic strange and questions why it would be a problem, since many people live like that without consequences. The answer is harsh. Not everyone manages to survive when they stop being welcome everywhere. When someone faces problems on all sides, is rejected by their family, and loses any place of belonging, death begins to seem like an escape. The conversation heats up, and Selena realizes she has gotten too carried away, and apologizes right after. At that moment, the Duke stands up, holds Selena by the shoulders, and looks deeply into her eyes, startling her. He speaks firmly, saying that rumors mean nothing to him. Calcion makes it clear that, whether they are true or false, gossip would not change his stance. He says that this also applies to Selena, and asks her not to back down in the face of others' words. Calcion states that as long as she does not run away, he will never end the contract between them. And, directly, he says that he does not intend to abandon her. Now he has shown that he truly seems to care about her within this crazy plan of theirs. Selena responds with a simple yes, feeling the weight of those words more than she would like to admit. Right after, he adds a blunt condition. While the contract exists, she must not get involved with another man. Well, looks like he is quite afraid of being cheated on and talked about badly in society. The next day, Renbird's palace is busy during the day, as Fionel and Rosalind are saying goodbye to Calcion and Selena. Rosalind says she hopes to see Calcion again in the capital, and Fionel agrees with the other noble. Fionel says goodbye, clearly emotional because Calcion personally came to see her off, and Calcion says that he is only there by chance because he wanted to walk outside. Selena hears Juna say that Fionel is already preparing for the capital, ready to spread rumors and create situations. When Selena says goodbye to Rosalind, she says she hopes to see her in the capital. Rosalind responds with a calculated smile, saying that perhaps they will see each other in the capital. But she really loves leaving a veiled threat at every possible moment. The word perhaps deeply unsettles Selena, making her wonder if Rosalind plans to get rid of her before the trip. The atmosphere grows heavy, and Selena admits that the situation is too frightening to ignore. Selena holds his arm a little tighter. She decides that, from that moment on, she will stay even closer to the Duke, and Calcion promptly agrees. A little later, Selena celebrates when she realizes that she will finally have lessons together with Calcion, something that seemed unfair before. Boo! Madame Janet completely changes her posture when she begins instructing Calcion, being much gentler with him around. Selena does not let it pass and comments on the difference in treatment, receiving a reprimand about using a polite tone as a response. She complains that this is not even a real situation, but Janet insists that etiquette must be a habit, even without an audience. Janet says that even if no one is watching her, Selena must practice until it becomes a habit. Calcion then intervenes and says that Janet is being too strict with Selena unnecessarily. Finally, he is putting that woman in her place and making her stop being rude to Selena. Janet defends herself by saying that what she taught the Duke is completely different from what Selena needs to learn. Calcion asks what kind of difference Janet is talking about. The housekeeper begins to search for an answer, but cannot find a convincing one. Selena notices this and does not let it slide, thinking about how ridiculous Janet is being at that moment. Selena then makes it clear that she has no interest whatsoever in becoming a duchess, which confuses Janet even more. She states that she does not intend to stay in Renbird forever, and that she is only there until the time comes for her to leave. Selena points out that excessive pressure suffocates anyone, even someone from a noble family, thinking about everything Erel must have gone through in that palace. She explains that mistakes are human, and that no one learns well when they are being crushed by demands. Calcion intervenes, saying that he ordered Selena to learn only enough so as not to tarnish Renbird's name. Janet obeys, but inwardly shows irritation at how quickly Selena responds to the Duke's words. Calcion comments that Selena learns quickly and that there is no reason for such strictness. Janet promptly agrees with the Duke, not wanting to give Selena any more reasons to attack her. It seems that Janet has been humbled after this lesson with both of them together. Later, Selena teases, remembering that even after a few hours of lessons, Janet still corrects absurd things. She jokes that responding to an invitation to the terrace with a request for a duel should not be such a big deal. Selena also teases Calcion, reminding him that he accepted a bet with someone as confident as she is. Janet sighs, asking Selena to be more gentle, while Selena responds with irony. She points out that the person Janet should really be strict with is right there. Calcion feels the weight of the etiquette lessons and comments that it is hard to believe that everyone learns that on their own, from a young age. Janet hears this and replies that there are things women need to know that men do not even realize. He realizes that if he had understood earlier how that world worked, many things could have been said in front of him without any concern. Poor Calcion was being judged by noble women without even knowing it. Selena responds that she is satisfied to finally understand that system, but admits that now she has lost the chance to provoke Renbird's society easily. The conversation changes when Selena begins to whisper and gesture with her hands to Calcion, suggesting that they reserve a room for the two of them. Calcion looks at her and tries to refuse the request, saying it would be better to take separate rooms since they will have several options. Selena argues that it is exactly the opposite, that they only have one option, and that she would feel very lonely. Calcion agrees without questioning, saying that if they take a larger room, they will be able to train. Selena jokes that the way he says it sounds like he wants to train in bed. Calcion, of course, is startled by her comment. Janet notices the conversation and reprimands Selena, questioning her behavior. That Janet has quite the sharp ears, doesn't she? Selena justifies herself by saying that she is only helping the Duke learn, since she has already mastered the basics. She then reminds him of their bet and calmly states that he lost. Without denying it, Calcion accepts the result and says that he will grant her wish, as promised. Selena explains that, to understand the social signals of the nobility, he also needs to learn the invisible language of interactions. She uses an example involving social codes, gesturing with her hands again and making it clear that she does not intend to make things easy for him. Calcion tries to understand the signals, but interprets everything completely wrong, and Selena scolds him. Without giving him time to react, Selena takes the lead and says that now it is her turn to teach. The two begin training to learn hand movements, trying to communicate without drawing attention from others. Honestly, I am not sure if these signals will be that useful in the middle of a party, but let's wait and see. In the middle of the training, Calcion says he needs to show her something, and stands up from the table. With a slight smile, he stops gesturing and extends his hand to Selena, saying that he will show physically what he wants to teach. Both Selena and Janet are surprised by the Duke's attitude. Selena blushes when Calcion tells Janet that he believes the conversation lessons have been sufficient, and that they can move on to the next step, dancing. Calcion helps Selena stand up and asks if she has ever had dance lessons. She replies that she has never, although she thinks she knows a little because of K-pop. Convinced, he says that it is finally his turn to teach her something. Calcion begins by explaining that when people of high society meet, the first step is always the proper greeting. Selena makes a curtsy and asks if it is correct. Calcion approves and says that it is perfect. Then it is his turn. Calcion holds her hand, gently kisses it, and looks at her. Selena becomes even more flushed. She starts having 1,000 thoughts at once, imagining how, suddenly Calcion seems much more handsome, and how that leaves her completely speechless. We are finally seeing Calcion making Selena blush. I am loving this. Trying to hide it, Selena looks away and asks what the next step is. Calcion replies that, in the basic steps, it is enough to follow the one who is leading. He explains that it is not necessary to memorize patterns, just to feel the flow of the interaction. Selena takes a step and asks if it is like that. Calcion agrees and says they will try again. He holds her waist with one hand and positions the other properly, beginning to lead the dance. He asks if everything is all right and if they can continue. Still embarrassed, Selena stutters, saying yes. While they dance, Selena finds herself observing his face too much, noticing details she tries to ignore. She is so cute, getting all flustered and shy with the dance. She scolds herself mentally and tells herself to focus on the lesson. Changing the subject, Selena mentions the wish she asked for as part of the bet. She says she does not want anything grand, just something simple. Selena asks that they start using nicknames for each other. Calcion accepts without resistance. Surprised, Selena asks if she can choose any nickname, even something cute. Something cute like Cal. I admit I did not expect that request out of nowhere, but calling the Duke Cal is actually very funny. Even hesitating, Calcion keeps his word and says it is fine. Selena notices the hesitation, but also sees that he kept his promise. She reflects that the more she gets to know Calcion, the less she feels she truly understands him. Selena comments that she always thought all men were the same, but she is starting to realize she was wrong. She thinks that since they are in a contractual relationship, they could be kinder to each other. The dance continues in silence, and as the steps go on, an almost romantic atmosphere begins to form between them. Selena notices this and asks if they can stop. Calcion, a bit awkward, replies that yes. At the end, Selena comments that she is really enjoying herself for dancing for the first time, even without music. Calcion replies that he is also finding it enjoyable, even if he is a bit stiff. Selena teases him, saying he dances like a wooden doll, but admits she liked it. Calcion asks if she really liked it. She replies that yes, that she liked the lesson very much. He looks at her surprised and is left speechless. In his mind, a memory appears of his mother saying that he danced as badly as a puppet without strings. But that memory is interrupted by Selena's smile, saying she liked dancing with him. My God, what kind of mother says that to her own son? What a cruel woman. Selena pulls him out of his thoughts by asking if he also liked dancing with her. But Calcion is still stuck on the idea that she said she was happy beside him. He scolds himself mentally, trying to push those thoughts away. Without an answer, Selena asks Janet if she danced well, saying that no one praised her skills. Janet observes for a moment and agrees that Selena danced very well. Calcion sees the interaction between the two and accepts that Selena really learns everything easily. He then says they can end the lesson for today, as he needs to rest. Selena thanks him for the lesson and, calling him Cal, says she had a lot of fun. Calcion turns, looks at her and gives a slight smile, saying that he also had fun. Are we finally seeing feelings growing between these two? A few days later, Selena watches the delivery of the 100 dresses from Devon. She thinks that despite the difficulties, all of them were completed within the absurd deadline of 20 days. Selena looks at all of it with confidence, thinking that after so much preparation and training, the long-awaited moment has finally arrived. The next day, they would depart for the capital. And that's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the story. Quite a breathtaking story, isn't it? I wonder how Selena and Calcion's stay in the capital will unfold. What do you think? Tell me more in the comments. And if you want more, don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss any new videos I post. The name of this work is Charming the Duke of North, and our recap went up to chapter 19. Kisses and see you next time.